I know this in my mind. I know it in my heart. I know it in my very soul. The state of the nation is sound. We live in difficult times, brought about by some forces of our own making, but certainly also by forces that are beyond our control. But we have, and we will continue to find solutions. Tayo ay nahaharap sa mga problemang kagyat nating mararamdaman at mga hamong pangmatagalan. To my fellow Filipinos, ang aking mga minamahal na kababayan,
Good afternoon. This is One News' special coverage of the second State of the Nation address of President Bongbong Marcos. I'm Regina Lay, and joining me this afternoon are my fellow One News editors, Ed Lingao, Manny Bogato, and Patrick Paez. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Regina.
Exactly 1 year.
Exactly 1 year. I can't believe it.
It's the same group.
Yes.
Same group.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.
The Storycon Group. I can't believe it. Ang bilis ng panahon.
It's the same group that meets twice a day, no?
Twice a day.
Mr. Lingao,
Twice a
twice a
day.
day, in the morning and the afternoon, to parse over all the stories of the day and to decide what to go with.
So if you don't like how we treat the stories, you know who to blame.
Guests also.
So much to talk about today because he made a lot of promises last year. And of course, 12 months is such a short time in order to, see through all of that. But what are you guys looking forward to hearing?
Well, after a year, we haven't seen any development. So we're expecting that on the second year, President Marcos can deliver all the promises.
Some of these promises might not be possible to deliver within
Yeah,
a year or two.
exactly.
We're looking at
That's fair.
At least let's give it 6 years.
Yeah.
But of course, I understand Manny's concern that maybe we could speed up with some of those in the laundry list of promises that he made last year.
Yeah.
It's just been 1 year.
Are we talking about rice, for example?
Rice, for example, we were going to see where we are on rice, on the 20 peso
Although
rice.
as early as November, December, you were saying malapit na tayo.
Let's
Nasa
see.
25 na tayo.
Sa Kadiwa.
Sa Kadiwa.
Sa Kadiwa. Sa Kadiwa, right.
Literally. You mean literally malapit tayo sa Kadiwa.
Okay.
Malapit na yung 20. He was
okay.
saying that.
We will.
But he was making reference to Kadiwa, which is, of course, heavily subsidized and reliant on the buffer stocks.
Right, right.
The NFA.
Oh, instead of using it for emergencies, it's being sold in Kadiwa.
Yeah.
We were looking at the numbers, and yeah, 20 peso rice in theory is possible, but it will cost.
Yeah, how much are you willing to subsidize?
It will cost in terms of subsidy. Now, the
Correct.
next question is
Yes.
if the government can provide the amount that it will take to really bring down the price of rice. We have some data later on we can show you how far we are or how close or how near we are from 20 pesos.
What about you, Ed? What are you looking forward to hearing?
I'm looking forward to hearing exactly how he plans to push these new bills that he had in mind. For example, the MUP.
Yes.
Which is that was one proposal that every administration before was dancing around, trying to avoid
Right.
dealing with. And now it's on the table
and
again.
why is it so difficult? Manny Mogato? Why is MUP
It
pension
is
reform very
Military and
difficult?
uniform personnel
Yeah, because the
pension.
military doesn't want to contribute.
You could have put it a little bit more less
More
less
elegantly.
bluntly.
Well, they want to get the
The pension.
pension, but they don't want to contribute. That's the problem. And in the
of
past,
course, you do
they've
have a
been
big debate
contributing, no? Because in the past, his father set up this RSBS, the Retirement and Separation
Benefit
Benefit System. And the soldiers contribute 5% of their base pay to this pension fund. However,
Which is actually lower than the regular.
Yeah, lower
Which is
than
just
the-
right, considering these are
Yeah.
people who risk their lives, right?
Yes,
Okay, so
but-
what happened to RSBS? I mean,
well, it collapsed.
it collapsed because money.
Well,
Our security analyst, our security editor here.
the problem is this fund is being managed by the military themselves, and they're not experts in
Okay.
financial management.
Okay, and I think a big part of it went down because of the investments they made
Yeah.
on golf courses
Yeah.
during the time of Fidel V. Ramos.
and condominiums and there was this economic crisis in 1998.
1997.
1997, yes.
1997 financial crisis.
So, well,
Because military officers are very good at conversion.
they convert everything. No, it's different.
Okay.
It's different. But I think they are not experts in handling finances. So it's better be left to experts.
In short, military pension, the real pension fund was invested in golf courses, among others,
Which
and then went bust during the 1997 global financial
Yeah.
crisis, which brings us to where we are today on military pension. It is part of the defense budget, okay? Where there are no contributions from the
Military and
military
uniform
itself.
personnel, yeah.
I think the problem here is that, especially when salary was increased during the time of President Duterte, so pensions increase as a result, and it's becoming a burden on the budget.
Yeah.
Because everything is shouldered as and made part of the budget. In fact, you could say that it's, strictly speaking, it's not pension. To call it pension is it's a misnomer.
What would you call it?
It's a gift.
It's a gift.
It's a safety net?
Because
Because, you know,
welfare
pension means
system?
that you have to have contributions,
Yes.
right? So, but there's no
Technically,
contribution.
yes.
But you know, in the private sector, when you contribute to the SSS, when you retire, you only get 14,000 a month or less.
Yes,
In the GSIS,
which is a lot better.
a lot better, but you only get about 80% of your income. But the military gets full 1 month income on their last
1
salary.
month salary.
Yes.
Yes.
Their last salary. So if you're a general earning 135,000, you get 135,000.
And
Right.
you get a lump sum of what? For the first 3 years.
First 3 years.
Isang bagsakan yan.
Sa bagsakan, no? Laki nun.
Ng milyones yun.
Okay,
Right,
we're being
right.
directed here right now to the graphics on our wall. But maybe at this point we need to bring in our guest tonight, a former political affairs advisor, so that when we go to our graphic wall on the Unity Matrix, maybe our guest can help us figure out what's in that Unity
The
Matrix.
Unity Matrix.
Okay.
Ano,
Unity Matrix. Okay. We all know that the President Marcos ran on a platform of unity. So here we can see the kind of influential people around the president, the people who supported him, and where they are today. So let's start with, first of all, his best friend, Congressman Anton Lagdameo. Okay. Designated Special Assistant to the President. Okay.
Bongo.
And we have also BFF, another BFF. He called her BFF. BFF Inday Sara Duterte, his vice president, and his sister, the self-proclaimed super ate ng Pangulo. On the other end, okay, this is not in any way should be seen as a division.
It's not a spectrum, yeah.
It's just a layout and graphics. We have, of course, the First Lady, FLLAM, First Lady Lisa Arneta Marcos, and the first cousin, the Speaker of the House, Martin Romualdez. Okay, First Lady Lisa Arneta Marcos, we have to remember the President has credited her for having the exemplary organizational skills, which also helped in the campaign a lot. For the first cousin, we have below him, of course, the House of Representatives, and by connection, solid lines leading to the Lakas Party. On the other hand, we have Super Ate ng Pangulo, and under that, we have the support of the Loyalists. For the Vice President, this is a little tricky here. This is where the solid lines get more interesting. We have Tatay Digong. There is no direct support from the former President going to the present President, but we know that the former President, despite what we can say somewhat strange relationships between the two, is solidly behind his daughter. Okay? Under the President, we have the party of the former President, PDP Laban. Okay? And there's another line going straight from the DDS to Sara Duterte. The DDS is still very much in support of the President, of the Vice President, and also of the former President. Now, to explain the broken lines here, We have a broken line leading to what the president describes as his secret weapon during his state visits abroad. This is former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. We have a missing line here. Should be a solid line leading from former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo to the VP. The ties between the two are supposedly strong. And also from the Vice President, solid line to the super ate ng Pangulo. They have strong ties here. The Vice President herself has said that she credits Senator Amy Marcos as having been the person to have convinced her to run for Vice President in the last election. Another hidden line, just to explain, another broken line, going to a new party that's being formed, the Kilusan ng Pagkakilusan ng Nagkakaisang Pilipino. It has filed for accreditation with the COMELEC. We don't know yet what happened to that application. And another broken line leading to the Senate. Now, you might ask, Ed, Manny, Regina, why a broken line to the Senate? We all know that the Senate, while they are supportive of the president, is composed of 24 independent republics.
Yeah.
So it is by no means a that cohesive or homogeneous body.
Yes.
Any comments?
Some might wonder whether there should be a straight line or broken line that links Inday Sara and the first cousin.
Should it be a broken line?
Or a straight line as well between Inday Sara and the First Lady.
Okay. I don't know, maybe our political analyst
we're gonna
here
need
has
someone else
has
to
a
weigh in on
suggestion
that.
Also,
on what kind of
the
line
secret
should
weapon
that be?
to First Lady.
Also, remember, the secret weapon, Lakas CND stalwart, is there still a connection with the first cousin who is now head of Lakas?
So there should be a line there too.
That's my question. Should it be a line, a broken line, or a jagged line?
There's also a line between the secret weapon and the First Lady.
Because remember, Inday Sara resigned. So you see all those big questions.
Yes.
Well, maybe you should bring in
Let's
our
ask
secret weapon.
our first guest for the day, former political advisor Ronald Llamas. You saw the fantastic presentation these guys did. Your comments?
Well, Ed Lingao is very right that there should be a broken line, not a dotted line, a broken line between the Vice President Sara and...
You're using broken in a different way, I suppose.
You noticed?
There are two ways to describe. First of all, define a broken line.
A broken line is a broken relationship.
So it used to be solid, and then it became it got broken.
Yes,
okay.
because even Vice President Sara last year was thanking the first cousin profusely for
Supporting her in the
for
campaign.
helping her in the campaign.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, cannot even mention
Last
his surname. So if that's not a broken line, I don't know what is.
Okay. Since
It's
we're in the
really-
topic of broken lines, I might as well ask Ronald.
Yeah.
Do you think there should also be a broken line between the former president and the vice president?
Yes.
Has that line been broke? Does that line remain broken, or has it been fixed?
between the former President Arroyo and the Vice President?
No,
The
between
former President
former President
Duterte
Duterte and the
and
vice
the
president.
current
Is that-
vice president.
I think that line has been almost fixed. Not yet a solid line, but it is now a dotted line.
It's a dotted line.
It's now a dotted line.
It's a translucent line.
yeah. I think
Why do you think it was fixed?
I think it's a mutual survival. No? Because the vice president is gaining a lot of enemies, partly because of her popularity as a presidential standard bearer for 2028, 5 years from now, but also because she's her father's daughter. Siya yung nagbanggit ng tambaluslos. No? So she's also creating a lot of enemies in how she conducts herself. So I wasn't expecting it this early. I was expecting it to happen perhaps after the midterm. So these disunities is not surprising. What is surprising is that it happened very
fast.
early, in less than a year after the victory of the president. No? Of course, it is inevitable because the unity during the campaign was not really an ideological unity. It was not a unity towards a political project or a unity of political parties.
It's a marriage of convenience.
Precisely. That's why it's like a balloon, a hot air balloon. It's so easy to explode because with a pinprick, it will unravel. During the first few months, you can see the unfolding of the disunities with the selection of the speaker. The former President Arroyo was expecting her because of her role in the alleged unity talks, which was basically done by the sister of the president to negotiate with Vice President Sara Duterte to be the standard bearer. But Arroyo felt that she was one of those important elements in that unity. So when she was not selected as the speaker, she felt aggrieved.
Okay.
And then after that, she
Right.
was allegedly pushing for some people in the cabinet, and it didn't happen. So there, at the very start, there were some cracks beginning to unfold.
Ronald, let me ask you this. As a former member of a cabinet yourself, no? Aren't groupings, factions, or cliques, or cabals, or by whatever name you want to call it, aren't they part of the normal dynamics within every administration? And what makes this different?
Usually you have some sort of an ideological unity or political project which unites everybody during the campaign, like Philippines 2000 of FBR, no? Trying to create the Philippines into a tiger economy. And then you have one dominant party, the Lakas.
But sorry, Ronald, no, when I look at the people here, no, if you can bring back the
matrix.
unity
Unity
matrix and
matrix.
keep it there in the wall. But sorry, Ronald, when you look at the unity matrix and the different people there in the group, if you look at ideology or policy issues at least, you don't. It's not easy to see that they will differ on policy issues or on ideology, as you put it. So.
Well, usually the ideology is dominated by the winner, the president. No, the dominant political. That's why I call it.
That presupposes there is an ideology.
Yes, I call it a political project. It's not really as an ideology as we know. Socialism, communism, no,
Let's call it
capitalism.
political project.
It's a political project. No?
Aren't they all united in the political project of making this presidency succeed?
Yes, but it's not clear. You said unity. You said golden age, but there's no platform. Like, for example, Ramos, no, Philippines 2000, tiger economy, ERAP, massification, no, ERAP para sa mahirap, or anti-corruption.
Ronald, bagong Pilipinas.
I was just gonna say, di ba meron na?
Well, it's only
Or unity.
The Bagong Pilipinas was only encapsulated or
Recently.
conceptualized a few weeks ago. And the substance is not clear, except that it's identified with Bagong Lipunan. No? So the substance is not yet clear. I'm talking about the first year, where this unity unraveled. No? Usually the political project is the linchpin of the president. I'm not saying that it is ideology
You don't
in that sense.
You don't see a project in this administration.
At least
a
not in the
political
first
project.
year. I think in the second year, there could be. Because there are-
When you say, excuse me, when you say that Bagong Lipunan sounds too much like Bagong
Pilipinas
sounds
sounds like
too much
Bagong
like
Lipunan.
Bagong Lipunan.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a project?
Yes, yes. That's why I'm saying that the Bagong Umaga and the Bagong Lipunan, the Bagong Pilipinas is somewhere in between. No, it's related to the campaign Bagong Umaga, but also linked to the past of Bagong Lipunan. That could create a political. I'm not saying it is a political project already. It could be, no? Like for the father, Bagong Lipunan was a clear political project tied to continuity. No? Tied to continuity. It's a political project tied to developing the Philippines based on an authoritarian model. Perhaps later, countries like Singapore, countries like Taiwan, Malaysia tried to follow suit. No? So that's the political project of the father.
So, Ronald, are you saying that there might be some point that the president would like to extend his mandate?
Yes, that is a distinct possibility. Usually, when you are already in power, you want a
too early
certain
to be talking about that.
you want a
isn't
certain
it?
element of continuity,
Yeah.
and that's why this early there are conflicts. Because if what you promise the vice president that she will be
The
successor is not affected by moves by other members of your family, of your coalition, there would be no problems like tambaluslos.
To that point, let me zoom into one particular grouping here. The DDS grouping. Lately, we've been seeing quite a lot of friction between this group and this
The
group.
president.
What does that? What does that
Exactly.
show you?
If you are monitoring the SMNI, if you are monitoring the bloggers of DDS, you can see that the lines are drawn. The principals, like the president, the former president Duterte, tries to evade attacking the president directly.
Not directly.
No? Although you can read between the lines the indirect attack.
So he's using the bloggers.
But the bloggers are attacking directly. No?
That's
Sharply.
sanctioned attacks.
Yes. If you are monitoring them. No? Perhaps we can discuss them one by one later. But this is where the lines are being drawn. With the principals, it's an attempt to model or it's an attempt to package it in a way like volunteering as the drug czar and then immediately saying no to that. No, it's like going to China and meeting President Xi Jinping. It's trying to pose your different foreign policy from the foreign policy of the incumbent president.
Parang medyo disimulado.
Okay.
Yes.
Ronald, my question, I guess, if I try to look at from left field, right?
Yeah.
What does this say that the opposition, let's say, to this administration, let's call it, if at all, no, an opposition to the administration, might be, okay, I qualify that, might be coming from a former partner in the unity team, and not from what is supposed to be the opposition, which is the Liberal Party, the Yellow Forces, and all that. I mean, this also says a lot about the state of the old opposition.
Exactly. Well, partly because when you are the opposition during the election, you restrain yourself from attacking the winner, no, for at least a year, no, giving the winner the chance
Grace
to develop his narrative, his project, and trying not to appear bitter, a bitter loser. So usually you restrain your, if you are really the opposition during the election, during the campaign. Second, the opposition has greatly weakened because of their defeat. No? As you can see in the membership of the Liberal Party. Usually, members of political parties from the opposition gravitate towards the winner. Like a lot of members of the Liberal Party joined Lakas, joined NUP, joined the
But Ronald,
NPC.
conversely, there are members of the Liberal Party who did not leave the party in the time of Duterte, but still joined the supermajority. So you also have that situation where they remain in the political opposition, but they are part of the supermajority.
Yes, like I think 4 members of the Liberal Party are members of the administration in the House. No? But they, as Patrick said, they're still member of
of the political
the
opposition.
Liberal Party. The Liberal Party, I think, is 6 or 7, divided into 3 different groups. One member is with
kukunti
the
na lang sila.
minority, the president is with the independent minority, and I think 4 or 5 are with the majority. So it is greatly weakened at this point. No? And perhaps they will be able to rejuvenate after the midterms if they win positions
Isn't
in the
it part
Senate.
of the normal dynamics then that when, when the two, Manny and I are friends, and, healthy competitors or whatever, that if our common enemy is already down and out, that we would end up
As
competing.
enemies.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
but-
maybe that's where we
Rivals.
are right now.
But it's not, it's not normal that in the first year or first 2 years or the first half that those who won will be divided. Usually the victory unites you, not divides you.
It did unite them for a
Yeah.
year. That's not long
Perhaps
now.
less.
So what you're saying is that there's a very good reason we opened with this graphic, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
what you're saying, bottom line, is that yung unity platform, that's thrown out the window already.
Not
12 months in.
Not exactly, but it's beginning to
Implode.
Crack.
to unravel. Like in the first less than 100 days, the second most powerful position, the executive secretary,
Right.
was kicked out, together with the alter ego, the spokesperson. I'm not sure about what happened with the head of COA. And then after the first 100 days, the Secretary of National Defense, the head of the Armed Forces, and the National Security Advisor disappeared. So you can see that. But what is more important is with Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. No? That's why she was called the secret weapon. It wasn't lost on her that she was being managed, that she was being appeased, because she didn't get what she really wanted, no? The speakership and perhaps a few
Cabinet positions, yeah.
cabinet positions. So by watching her, you can see that she's not very happy with being managed. That's why some people I talk with who were with the trips are saying that she was a little pissed with the others in the group.
Although, of course, publicly her statement was very friendly. Right?
yes.
Did she really
That's why.
plotted?
That's why fast forward, they tried to manage it, this conflict. But even the speaker, Martin Romualdez, eventually admitted that there was a destabilization plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did she really plot against Romualdez?
According to the speaker. We're not that privy to what really happened.
Ronald, I guess,
Yeah.
having been a member of the Aquino cabinet, and
Yeah.
there were two groups or factions back then.
Samar
there was
and
Balay, there
Balay.
was Samar.
Yeah.
Isn't it what's simply important for the president to get his agenda done, to get things done for his presidency to succeed? Is that yes, there may be factions below me. Yes, my people might be at each other's
Throat.
necks or throats once in a while, but as long as they support me,
Correct.
the president, everything's okay. It's part of the dynamics in any court, whether it's a presidency or a royalty or whatever.
Corporate CEO.
Corporate
Yeah.
CEOs, your managers will
Yeah.
Well, yes and
fight.
no.
There will be rivalries in the organization.
Yes and no, because the president has to lead. No, the president has to fix these dynamics. The president has to tell them, "I'm the leader. You get your act together, and then fix it." That's I think what happened in most governments. No?
Is it beginning to affect, for
like
example-
FDR, Pinoy, etc.
I guess,
Perhaps
Ronald,
except ERAP.
Ronald, I guess the more practical question, is it getting in the way of, for example, is he got Maharlika Fund
Correct.
passed?
Is it
Okay.
getting in the way of
Yeah.
getting things done?
Yeah.
Is
I mean,
it?
mukhang hindi naman.
They might be
were able to get
fighting over
Maharlika done.
Tambalos laws,
Yeah.
but they got Maharlika Fund done.
Yes, but Maharlika Fund is not that important in the scheme of things. What is important, for example, is foreign policy. No, there's a clear division there. No?
Is there? Within the administration?
Yes. No, I think the vice president, and some of her allies.
Where would you put the vice president? Let's talk about the vice
Yeah.
president. We know where her father stands,
Yeah.
okay? But let's talk about the vice president. Where do you think the vice
I
president
think
stands?
the vice president before is more attuned to the independent foreign policy at the start. But I think with what happened with former President Arroyo, with the criticisms of the first sister, and with the clear difference of the father, I think she's beginning to lean towards a different foreign policy. Like, for the first time, she publicly criticized the Afghan refugee, no, as a political statement, together with a sister, no, and together with ex-President Arroyo and ex-President Duterte. That could be a start of differences in foreign policy as far as the vice president is concerned.
Well, let me try to reframe that question as well. Because we were talking kanina about, the president being okay if his people fight so long as they still support him.
Yeah.
Are we seeing the same situation here? I
think it's still too early because we're just entering the second year.
Yeah, but
the president can scale up, no? Can try to scale up and try to unify everybody. That's still a probable scenario, no?
But you have a very, very noisy group affiliated, I don't know if that's the right word, affiliated with his own sister and his vice president and the former president who's directly attacking him.
Yes, that's why this could still gravitate towards something else. Like some are saying that the PDP Laban, led by the former president, could be the next opposition. Could be, no? Because the president is beginning to scale up as well, trying to build a new coalition with Lakas, which is now practically led by the first cousin, with the new political party, KNP, with significant members, not only of the Congress and the Senate, but also of the cabinet joining it, and then scaling up with the party where he registered his presidency, the Partido Federal, and possibly another party, the party of his father. No? The Nacionalista could also become part of the new ruling coalition, which could be the coalition during the midterm.
What will happen to KBN?
It could be a member, but there's not too many members of KBL left.
Well, one of them is now presidential advisor on poverty alleviation.
How about the LPs?
I think the LP will also build their own bigger tent beyond the Liberal Party. Like there's Chel Jokno and Bamakino has formed their own political party. No?
But some are joining
the other presidential candidates before, like Manny Pacquiao, could be part of that bigger tent.
I guess
Former-
elections are still a few years away.
Yeah.
I think the only reason we put up this unity matrix is to see, because our topic is all about the legislative agenda and Sona.
Exactly.
So this is the team that's supposed to make that happen.
push.
But so much has
it's important
happened
to see
on this front.
how solid and how together they are on the president's agenda.
I agree, Patrick. It's a good starting point.
Yeah, and if you look at it, I don't see where they really digress on the president's agenda. I see a lot of clashing political ambitions, possibly, which will probably, keep surfacing every now and then. But safe to say, it would seem that the team is intact in supporting the president's agenda.
Hopefully, because if you look at the supporters of, for example, ex-President Duterte and ex-President Arroyo, the lines are drawn. If you look at their supporters, they themselves, except President Arroyo, ex-President Arroyo, are trying to manage the differences in a different way. But it explodes once in a while, especially President Duterte cannot help himself.
Of course, but
Maybe, Ed, we should
gonna
look
hit-
at the Sona promises from last year so we can
We
see whether
shall.
this team will still continue to deliver for the president. I think
we're going to have to look at that later. We're going to hit pause for now because we are, of course, waiting for President Bongbong Marcos to deliver his second State of the Nation address. Meantime, as I said, we need to take a brief pause. This is a One News special coverage. We'll be back right after a quick break. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is One News' special coverage of the State of the Nation address. Let's now take you right live to the Batasan Pambansa. Our senior correspondent Maricel Halili is there. What's the latest at your end, Mase?
I will give you the scenario of what to expect upon the arrival of President Bongbong Marcos here at the Batasan Pambansa this afternoon for his second State of the Nation address. Based from the initial information that we have gathered, President Bongbong Marcos is expected to arrive here at the Batasan Pambansa via chopper from the Malacanang Palace. Of course, it's always subject for change depending on the weather and security issues. Upon landing, he is expected to be assisted by the Chief of Protocols, Secretary Adelio Cruz, and PSG Chief Ramon Zagala. The President will then proceed to the Executive Lounge here in Congress. He will be welcomed by senators and members of the House of Representatives, led by Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri and House Speaker Martin Romualdez. After some private time, the President will proceed to the plenary hall for the opening of the joint session. The Secretary General will announce the arrival of the President. The President will be accompanied by the Senate President and the House Speaker. The session will be called to order. This will be followed by the singing of the national anthem, led by soprano singer Lara Marie Mascardon Maige. After the national anthem, it will be followed by the national or the nation's prayer, to be led by priests, teachers, and pastors of different religion, including Roman Catholic, the Muslim community, Christian ministries, Iglesia ni Cristo, and the Seventh-day Adventist. After this, the President will deliver his second Sona. After the Sona, both leaders of Congress will adjourn the session. The President will again proceed to the Executive Lounge with the First Family before going back to Malacanang. Reg, earlier this afternoon, we already saw some of our legislators arrived here in Congress. This includes Senator Coco Pimentel. We also saw Senate President Mig Subiri, Senator Win Gatchalian, and we also saw Senator Chizo Escudero with wife Heart Evangelista. We're expecting the President to arrive here before 4 this afternoon. Reg?
All right, now let's go back to what we were talking about earlier, and I think now it's time to take a look back at the specific promises he made in 2022. Ed,
you're
you'll
looking
do
at
this the honors.
quite a long list.
Fulfilled.
Yeah, quite a long list of
Tingnan natin which
promises
ones
we
have
had
been fulfilled.
in 2022. Let's start with the economy. So many things to talk about with the economy, but let's zoom into some of them. The President, of course, in the last Sona promised to overhaul the tax system, specifically the final phase of the CTRP, the Comprehensive Tax Reform Package, with HB 4339. But it's still pending right now. From what we understand, this was supposed to simplify the transaction of the taxation of passive income, among many other things. So that's still pending. Then you have support for ecozones, VAT for digital service providers, something also very touchy, especially for people watching Netflix. Still pending. Ease of Paying Taxes Act and the streamlined customs processing via information and communications technology. Nothing passed as of yet. I'm not really sure where we are as far as this was concerned. I think this was supposed to be the major measure being pushed. Now, moving on to agriculture, everybody's favorite, especially after the past year. Loans to agricultural industry, that's a check mark. Continuation of the AR of CARP, that's also a check mark. This is probably one of the bigger
57 billion.
Bigger, I don't know, you call it a success or bigger steps made by the administration in the last year.
600,000 farmers.
50 billion for benefiting 600,000 farmers. Of course, some people are saying well, to begin with, only 17% of CARP beneficiaries were really paying their amortization. So talagang wala nang makukuha dun eh. So might as well let it go. But this one finalizes it, makes it final and sets them free from all those debts. So that's that's
biggest.
That was actually,
Agrarian
Ronald, that was
Emancipation Act.
what you would call a low-hanging fruit.
yeah.
Yes.
It's not really going to cost the budget.
Kasi hindi mo makolekta talaga.
Collect eh.
Yeah,
So I'm surprised that they just thought of it now.
Yeah,
Right?
that's also true.
These are bad loans.
Yeah, very bad loans. But at the same time, it's also a matter of how you push it forward. Because yes, you did condone the loans, but how far do you support the farmers? And are you giving them enough support as you go on? And then, of course, financial and technical assistance for the farmers, that's also pending. And distribution of lands to war veterans and families and retirees, that's also pending. The big thing that we're not seeing here yet, but we will go into a little while later, will be, issues in agriculture like rice, sugar, onions, and
Pork and chicken.
and all the other goodies that Manny
But a lot of those changes might not require law. Might
Yeah.
just require department orders or...
Yeah.
Ed,
Executive
the
orders.
last one, does it include the land for the Makati barangays that were given to Taguig?
Oh, but that was only finalized a couple of months ago. So I don't think that was in the horizon when they came up with these promises.
At saka, the other thing I wanted to point out was that first item. I know orange means pending, but we should also qualify it by saying it's ongoing because there are efforts to distribute machinery, for example, to make fertilizer cheaper
And loans.
for the farmers and provide more loans. But we do know efforts to produce local fertilizer, for instance. Yan yung, that's what tripped us up during the pandemic.
Exactly.
Right?
What is
Because it
more
was so
important?
expensive.
Yeah. What is more important is the substance. Like the loans are good, no? Agrarian Emancipation Law. Even if most of these loans are already considered bad loans, but it's still a positive contribution to the situation of the farmers.
Yeah.
But what is more important are the structural ills of agriculture, the structural problems of farmers, like what Senator Rafi Tulfo has been criticizing about our agrarian reform program, land conversion, transformation
Maraming
of
tatamaan doon,
rich agricultural lands into
subdivisions.
no, against the law. Against the law.
I
you know?
think that will
Yeah.
all be solved by a
Yes.
National Land Use Act,
Which is
having
also the advocacy
trouble
of
really moving
Senator,
forward, yeah.
which is also the
It's
advocacy
been
of Senator Tulfo.
decades since.
Yeah.
But
The second are the
You
cartels.
had so many administrations talking about
Land use.
Act,
Yes.
but nobody passing it. Nobody
Starting
really
with
making a big
Fidel
push
Ramos.
about it.
Again,
Because
why?
it will hit the richest sections of our taipans.
Recall that he
Yeah,
had
the
an
real
exchange of
estate.
words with Senator Cynthia Villar,
Yes,
one of
yes.
the country's largest
What is also
landowners.
more important are the cartels. What former central bank governor Philip Medalla was explaining was the main source of food inflation.
Of course.
No, the cartels, which
But we saw
control
that
a lot
with
of
sugar,
yes,
with onions.
sugar, onion, rice,
And
etc.
with rice in the previous administration. I
Yes.
do remember in one Sona, President Duterte ordered all intelligence agencies or intelligence bureaus of all agencies to go after the rice cartels.
But
Nothing happened.
But nothing happened.
all agencies, all intelligence
But
agencies.
just a month ago, President Bongbong Marcos also said the same thing, that he will go against the cartels in the agricultural
Yes.
sector. So this will create more substance to these optics, no? If he will be able to implement that. Because up to now,
We're
not a
still waiting.
single hoarder, not a single smuggler
Has been prosecuted.
have been prosecuted.
Yeah.
No? So if the president will be able to do that, that could be a game changer about the problems of agriculture, which his sister have been saying since last year during the first Sona. Clean the agricultural department of cartels, of corrupt personnel. If he can do that, this will have some substance.
Hold on, I do think there have been smaller players, smaller hoarders, members of the cartel that have been caught and prosecuted.
But the
But
bigger
we're
ones
talking
are
about the big fish, right?
yes. Like you have 3 importers given.
Ito yung mga containers, the ones that import containers.
No, they were given the chance to import 440,000 metric tons of sugar from Thailand, which cost about 20 pesos and is being sold here for 100 pesos. That is clearly anomalous.
I guess this is what the president means when he said that 30 years, it's not easy to reverse 30 plus years of neglect of the agricultural sector. Remember, we were coming from post 86. We were coming from everything was liberalized. If you can't grow it, just import it. So I think that's been the system for the last 30 plus years.
Well, it has been
that's why the traders have grown in terms of their power and their influence.
It has been a constant struggle for every government. No? There have been advances, there have been reversals, especially when it comes to land conversion, especially when it comes to subsidies to farmers, especially when it comes to, for example, crop insurance, because disasters usually happen regularly. So unlike in other countries like Japan, Europe, and the US, they have disaster insurance. We don't have that here. No?
Is it just a question of that, or is it really a policy direction that took place after 1986?
I think it's
when we decided to liberalize everything and to follow, while the other countries did not follow.
I think
they
it's all,
protected their farmers.
I think it's all of the above, because the liberalization was in reaction to the purely state subsidized, which brought down our agricultural down, especially prime commodities. Okay. You know, that's why that's one of the reasons why perhaps the former President Marcos fell, because the prices of prime commodities went down. So protectionism took its toll during the father's time. That's why there was a liberalization too. But at the same time, it's not a solution. No, it should be a combination of different
It's a delicate
policies,
balancing act.
But Ron,
depending on the sector.
I also wonder, is there any need to clarify or qualify how we define cartel in this country? Because everybody keeps talking about cartels.
Yeah. Cartels are those who monopolize certain products, especially in agriculture, but not solely in agriculture.
I mean legally,
like
legally
energy.
and criminally.
Energy is a cartel, no?
Oil.
Oil is a cartel.
Lots of cartels in oil.
That's why cartels are related to rent seeking, which means you have people in government who favors you.
I guess it helps Ronald or Regina Manny to find out where at what level is it the cartel.
Bawal at kailan
And
siya
it would
hindi.
seem that it's at the level of the trading. Not the planting, because there's been very little support for the planters in this country.
But it will be affected. The reason why cartels grow strong is because the producers are very weak.
Yes.
Even before they plant, the farmers are already indebted to the middlemen and the cartels, because the farm inputs, the fertilizers, the pesticides, the machinery, etc., are all credits from middlemen who are usually the cartels.
This is big question is it possible to have food security with the government not getting heavily involved, or the state, in the agricultural sector?
Yes, it could. It's not really total food security, but at least you have a buffer stock. At least whatever happens around the world, like the Ukraine war, which elevated the prices of food. No,
how do you get that build that buffer stock without having the government heavily involved in the agricultural sector?
Well, you can have partnerships between government and big taipans,
the private
who are
sector,
modernizing. No, like I heard that Manny Pangilinan is creating this huge,
the largest greenhouse in the country.
So that could be not only a model, it could be a partnership with government to at least secure a certain part of your food, to
lower the prices.
Yes, for lean months or during crisis, like a Ukraine war.
How do you build the buffer stock if you're selling it in Kadiwa?
Usually,
subsidized nga yung Kadiwa eh.
But you're selling the buffer stock anyway.
Part of what you sell in Kadiwa are those which have been those
Confiscated
in customs.
And by the
I think
way,
that's more an optics thing
Yeah.
than anything.
Yes,
By the
because
way-
you only have 30 Katiwa
Yes.
stores.
one defining characteristic of cartels is they artificially manipulate prices, right?
Right.
If I were a trader, I could just let market forces dictate the price of my goods.
Yes.
But if I were a cartel, I will dictate the price.
Yes.
I'll peg it at whatever level I choose.
Like
right?
storage, cold
Yeah.
storage.
Yeah.
The Department of Agriculture only have one cold storage in the entire central Luzon. So who controls the cold storage? It's the cartels. They can
That's how you
hide
define
for 6
cartels.
months the sibuyas.
Yeah.
No? And then sell it.
Pero is that illegal?
It is.
Yes.
It is.
Hoarding,
Well,
yun eh,
well.
hoarding.
It's hoarding.
Okay.
No?
Okay. But the other thing kasi is this we keep making a big deal out of SRPs or suggested retail prices. But SRPs are really not
Nobody,
don't mean
nobody
anything.
follows
Yeah,
that.
You just suggested. Yeah, just suggested.
Nobody follows that.
It's
Nobody-
kaya nga,
Suggested,
suggested,
you know.
suggested retail price.
Yeah.
So
What,
you
what
can...
Ed means is that nobody,
It's not
if a
enforced
merchant,
because it's suggested.
if a merchant doesn't follow
Yeah.
it, there's nothing happens
Nothing
to
you can
it.
do.
Yeah,
Because
nothing government can do.
It's the law of supply and demand.
Correct. It's
which
a free
dominates the
market,
market.
yes.
And that's where the cartels dominate.
Correct.
No? The law of supply.
Okay. A makulit question. Aren't cartels just following the market also?
They're manipulating the market, no? By, for example, hoarding these goods in cold storage, like the sibuyas. The sibuyas is a classic.
Isn't that
No.
the market? Sorry, it's a theoretical economic question, but isn't that the market? How the market
Yes, a
works?
manipulated market. It is
yeah.
still the market, but it's a manipulated market.
It's still a free market.
Yes,
Yes.
which goes against the rules of the state.
Economics.
No? Hoarding, smuggling, no? etc. Usually, the permit given by the DA, the import permits, no? This is where the manipulation happens.
Like in sugar.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Ed, I think you...
Nauna pa yung sugar order.
That's why the statement of the first sister to clean the Department of Agriculture during the first Sona is very important because that's where it starts.
In
the
fact, I
import
remember
permits.
just shortly after the president assumed office, the statement from the sister was, "Magalit ka na." She was trying to tell his brother, urging his brother to get mad.
At the DA.
And we all know that I think that's not within the personality of the president.
I remember that she had a press conference in the morning before the Sona.
All right, what else do we have, Ed?
Those are things that you will not see here. Umiwas siya dun. But anyway.
Okay, what else
That's
do
why
we
I'm
have?
talking about the substance. These are
Yeah.
who will object to this?
Nobody. That will not divide the unity team. Ronald, that's not going to divide the unity.
Yes, yes.
Okay, let's move on. Marami na ba to?
What
Maybe
will
we should
divide
focus
the
on this.
unity team is the budget.
Okay.
Okay,
Should we jump into that?
priority measures. Right-sizing program, budget modernization bill, tax package. We talked about this briefly. Two tax packages: e-government act, Internet Transaction Act, and what's the guide bill?
National government right-sizing, that is going to be very touchy.
It
Because that might
already
involve-
has been.
That
It already has
involves
been.
layoffs, right?
Yes.
Supposedly, if you want a honest-to-goodness right-sizing of the bureaucracy, you're going to have to sacrifice jobs. So that's going to be hard.
And the medical reserve corps require medical graduates to
render service.
Render service.
That will be very hard because even the father tried that with almost absolute power, and he failed.
Which one? The right-sizing
Yeah,
or
the
the medical?
right sizing. Because it's very hard to tame the white elephant.
bureaucracy.
The
The bureaucracy.
Yes.
It's very political.
Okay, tourism. Some pending and ongoing measures, road improvements at tourist destinations, pending and ongoing. Upgrades at MIA, creation of more international airports. This is what we have, fostering a Filipino brand.
Love the Philippines.
Like
Pero
yesterday.
that's
Like yesterday, may sinundo ako sa airport. Grabe. Punong-puno. Walang laban ng Divisoria. So,
Okay, marami tayo. So let's zoom through them. This is still pending. Disease Prevention Management Authority, creation of Virology Institute, also still pending. Water resources, unified system, separation, retirement, and pension. This is different from MEP, di ba? This is different
I
from
think
MUP.
that would be it.
I mean,
maybe.
this predates the MUP.
It is basically
yes.
MUP.
MUP. Pero I've been hearing those proposals even during the Duterte time. The water department.
Yeah.
Hydrology
Mo-
Most of that
Institute.
are the usual
Yeah.
state of the nation proposals
Yes.
of any government,
And especially this one.
except the
Yeah.
Department of Water. That's new.
I have heard him mention that, the Water Resources Management
Yeah.
Office. Yes.
I think as far as nobody will disagree with that.
Yes.
And I think that's just a question of putting together all these water-related agencies like National
Lua.
on Irrigation National Water Resources Board,
Maraming
then you have
agencies. Yeah.
National Irrigation
Irrigation.
Administration,
Lua.
MWSS.
Yeah.
So maybe it makes sense to just put them all together in one department.
But at
Wow.
the same time,
Lot of-
water will be
Also a touchy issue.
a very important issue,
Yes.
like right now.
Just like
The-
electricity,
Yes.
just like power.
Yes, we have a deficit in electricity. Now we have a deficit
In water.
fresh water.
Correct. El Nino is coming pa.
Being an archipelago in the middle of
An ocean.
With all the
lots-
storms, we
yes,
should learn
all
how
the
to
rain,
catch
no?
them.
So we have a deficit of water.
Okay, well, quickly.
A lot of checks.
Oh, health, but no lockdowns, alert level system, and the lifting of the emergency. That was today. Continuation of vaccine booster rollouts. This one, I'm not sure how this became a finished item. Construction of rural health centers.
That would fall under, I think, ongoing. I
Ongoing,
think he has
yeah.
announced some hospitals. There was a hospital, I think, in Bicol or somewhere
In
the province he
Clark.
visited. In
In
Clark,
Clark.
yes.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
one hospital in Clark doesn't mean it's
Yeah,
checked.
yes, yeah,
It's a check mark already, so it's ongoing.
So just to qualify that one.
That's a legacy from the mother,
Yeah.
I think, no? Building hospitals.
Information communications technology, all pending or ongoing.
Oh, the national ID. It's a very problematic. I still don't have my national ID.
Me too.
It's been a year, no, Manny? It's been a year since you applied.
License, no.
That's completion of 92 million IDs by mid-2023.
Well,
this
that's-
is mid-2023.
Actually, there should have been an X mark because we're past mid-2023.
Wala yung aking ID. Wala pa.
Wala.
Okay. Okay, OFWs, we have
yeah,
this already,
yes,
so
of
that's a
course.
check mark.
Pero
Automated
dapat
verification of
dagdagan yan.
contracts.
Ano, nagreklamo si Toots Ople na kulang ang kanyang budget.
Digital certifications, one repatriation command center, that's a check mark. Okay. Education, of course, face-to-face classes, that's also a check mark already. Shortage of schoolrooms, always ongoing and always pending at the same time. Review of K-12, there's already a decision to go to K+10, not necessarily against K-12, but just the curriculum review. Re-examination of medium of instruction.
That's a
Yung mga
department
matutang-
order, I guess.
Eh, yung main project ng DepEd, ba't wala dyan? ROTC.
It's there in the list. It's a law.
Nasa
That will
pending
require law.
nasa proposed bills
Priority
yun.
bills.
My understanding of re-examining the medium of instruction is to move away from the use of the dialect
Yes, yung
for
bilingual.
the younger
Oh.
kids, in teaching younger kids. Because I think that's had devastating
The mother
results.
tongue.
That's had devastating results on our school children.
At saka yung substance.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
tayo ngayon...
There are no textbooks in the dialect, so I don't know
we are
what
we
kind
are one of the
learning is
highest, if not the highest, in learning poverty.
happening. 90+%.
Yeah. That will have a significant impact to our
Yes.
competitiveness regarding
In the
labor.
long term.
In the
Yeah.
medium term.
Already, how many generations lost?
Plus pandemic.
Well, infrastructure, of course, admittedly, these are long-term projects, so you can't really expect them, any of them to be finished by now. So they're mostly pending and ongoing. North-South Commuter Railway System, Metro Manila Subway Project already started. LRT1 Cavite Extension, MRT7, and compensation for
I think, Bok,
The following.
the biggest problem there is the right of way.
always right away.
Yeah.
Always
And
right
there's no
away.
subway there in that list.
Here.
Oh, okay. Metro Manila
Which
subway.
is also delayed
Yeah.
because of right-of-way
Yeah,
issues.
but they started already.
There.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Nahanap ni Ronald.
National Defense Act.
Manny, what is a National Defense Act?
Well, because our National Defense Act was created during the Commonwealth period.
Yeah.
So it has to be updated because
Hapon pa kalaban natin.
punta eh. Now we have cyber security, which is a very big problem.
Tsaka lulusob sa Taiwan.
Oh.
You would think that it's easy enough to update it, right? Why hasn't it been?
Yes.
Well, it's because the DND is very slow.
So with Secretary Kibuo ba, bibilis?
Maybe. We don't know. Because that Defense Act was started under Defense Secretary Batasan.
He made the draft.
Yeah.
He made a draft which is supposed to be going to be the basis for at least something to start on.
But what's
For
the
the National
what's the
Defense
big thing here in the Defense Act? What's the big change?
Well, you have to change the structure of the Defense Department.
We had a discussion a while ago with Manny whether National Defense Act updating it would mean, for example, saying that a foreign company cannot own your water resources or your
electricity.
energy or your power grid or something.
I think
like
we're also shifting from internal security, internal defense to
Yes.
external.
I think that one of the problem there is the line of communication, the chain of command. I think under Marcos, the chain of command is from the president to the chief of staff. So where's the defense secretary?
that. Okay.
Okay, mandatory ROTC and
Ed's
NSTP.
favorite topic or law.
But where are we here?
Is there a bill filed
Pero may
already?
pending na ba?
Pending.
Pending.
Oo nga pala, perpetually pending.
Pending.
Perpetually pending eh. But
Their opposition, there is a group opposing it. The private schools, I think, are opposing that ROTC law.
But we don't see it having a hard time in both chambers of Congress, whether House of Representatives or Senate.
Yes, but I think,
It should.
but if you
how
look
come
at
it hasn't
the
moved significantly?
surveys, I think,
It's unpopular.
yeah, it's a very unpopular.
It's unpopular for the students who will be affected.
Yes.
It's popular for everybody else, including their parents.
Yes.
That's the.
Well, for us, I finished ROTC.
So you want the young ones to go through it too, right?
Of course.
So then, wag tularan, gano'n. Okay, mandatory ROTC and STP, enactment of an enabling law for the natural gas industry. Any ideas?
Would that be related to Malampayan, which they signed off for new
It could
explorations
be.
recently?
It could be.
Why an
We already
enabling law?
know that they're looking into resuming exploration, deep sea exploration at Malampaya. Again, energy sufficiency or self-sufficiency is a priority for this administration, although how we will get there is the big
Yes.
question mark.
Especially since the Supreme Court has declared unconstitutional and illegal any joint exploration with the Chinese.
With China, correct.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think what happened to Dennis Uй's LNG project in Palawan.
I think Dennis Uy is nowhere to be found.
Okay, last two amendments to the EPIRA law has to do with as well with the power rates and to the build, operate, and transfer,
Transfer
law.
law.
Okay, well, generally that's it. That's it. That's all that we have because after this we are going back to the economy.
Okay.
Discuss
We have
with you.
some data there Ed, that shows us how far we are from the 20 peso rice promise.
Yeah, pero ano lang siguro?
Okay.
Okay,
Ronald,
later.
while we call that up, let's talk about the budget, right? Because
Yeah.
sabi ni Ronald earlier,
Oh, ano ba yung-
they will end up fighting. There will
Ano
be
yung
internal
biggest
fighting
problem in the budget?
with the budget.
Yes, dahil
Why?
hindi naman masyadong pagtatalunan itong mga
Yeah,
policy
because they're-
directions na ito.
Yeah.
At least within the government or within the unity coalition. What could be more important or defining is the budget, especially if somebody touches the intelligence and
Confidential
funds
Of the vice president.
of everyone.
What? So what? It's just going to grow every year, the number of people who get intelligence funds? You think?
Usually it grows,
Ang dami
no?
na.
Especially during the previous government of Duterte.
Correct.
Yeah. because the Tokhang also grew, no? And that's where most of these
Even
funds go.
line agencies get their confidential funds.
Yeah.
Imagine the PCOO having confidential funds.
Because these are unaudited funds. So for most people, especially those who have political ambitions, it's the best kind of fund because they don't have to audit it. They can use it for whatever purposes they want.
Because
I guess
it's
safe
more
to
fun
say
in the
to
Philippines.
Yeah,
It's safe to assume that it does not necessarily go to intelligence gathering.
of course.
Tell us where it goes to, Ronald.
Usually, in building your own organization, in getting intelligence about your enemies, and in preparing for the next election.
Well, did Pinoy had intelligence fund?
Minimal, no? Very minimal. I even have to help negotiate with the National Security Advisor to have an intelligence fund because he didn't have it.
Okay. Did you have intelligence fund during your time as political affairs advisor?
No, I have one of the smallest funds.
Yeah, you would think National Affairs Advisor would have a
lot,
sizable
a lot. Yeah,
intelligence
right,
fund,
right.
Confi funds.
Yeah, because you have to do it yourself.
But yeah.
So
And now
abonado ka.
we're
Like in Channel 5, you have to get your sources of intelligence cheaply or pro bono.
And now we have a situation where the Department of Education has a sizable
Yeah.
confidential fund,
Yes, yes.
bucket,
Well, I think they
which
use
supposedly is going to be used for
red
I don't know,
tagging.
CCTV cameras in the classrooms or something.
Yeah, they just issued a memo to identify members of a leftist
ACT.
political party who are also teachers in DepEd. So
Right,
it
right.
can be used that way.
Can be.
Yeah.
We're going to have to pause for another break right now, so hold that thought. This is, of course, the special coverage of President Bongbong Marcos' State of the Nation address. We'll bring you more live reports and more insights from our guests here in the studio right after the break. Stay with us.
X na. There, Twitter.
Hindi na blue check.
Welcome back to this special coverage of the State of the Nation address. I'm Regina Lay. With me are One News editors Patrick Paez, Manny Mogato, and Ed Lingao, who just stepped out. But we also have our guest, former presidential political advisor Ronald Llama, sitting to my right. And joining us also, geopolitical analyst Richard Haydarian. Welcome, Richard.
Former political analyst.
Ayan.
Bakit former? You have a new career
Ano
now.
bang kaibahan ng geopolitical analyst with an analyst?
With a
Mas social kami. Nag-travel.
with the foreign affairs analyst. Now, according to House Speaker and presidential cousin Martin Romualdez, President Marcos' speech later will be relatively short and sweet, lasting only about 45 minutes. What more can we expect from it? Let's go to our mobile journalist, Julie Baiza, who's now at the Batasan Pambansa in Quezon City. Julie, what have you heard about this speech?
Ako barong.
Good afternoon. According to presidential son Congressman Sandro Marcos, President Bongbong Marcos' speech would last at around 1 hour and 25 minutes only. As for this moment, different personalities and government officials are already here at the Batasan complex for PBBM's second State of the Nation address, or Sona. We had a chance to talk with some of the senators, including Senator Nancy Binay. Senator Binay said they wanted to hear what are the president's expectations for the Senate. She's also hoping that they could pass some of the priority bills of the president. For her part, Senator Binay emphasized that it is important for the president to mention the issues on West Philippine Sea. According to her, para yan sa soberanya ng bansa at kailangan ipaglaban ang karapatan natin sa pinagkakawang teritoryo. Meanwhile, former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque mentioned that former President Rodrigo Duterte is possibly not attending the Sona. No? He says that based on Senator Bongo's statement, Duterte is currently resting from his China trip. Nagbiro pa si Roque and sinabi niya, akala ko makaintindi. Marites sana kami dito kasi expecting sana na we would meet the former president here.
Okay. We had to cut that short because the audio just
Audio is bad.
was quite patchy. It's to do with the connection between here and Batasan Pambansa. We apologize for that. But let's come back to our discussion. We left it at the budget. But I wanted to ask Richard first, being the new guest joining us this afternoon. What are you looking forward to hearing?
Of course,
there's so many promises from last year. Ano yung what's on your mind?
Well, unfortunately, I already know what Ronald is going to say. We have been together every week since the past month to break down exactly this upcoming. No, for me,
That was almost a criticism.
I know. The fiscal sustainability issue is a big thing for this administration. If you look at the Global Competitiveness Report na lumabas last June, that's one of the areas where the Philippines had a major decline. Kaya actually our overall ranking still went down,
Right.
although we're still second to last in Asia Pacific. Good news, right? At least we kept that ranking. So two things are important there, no? Actually, three things. One is the Maharlika Sovereign Fund. Some are jokingly saying maybe it should be debt fund because we're not that rich of a country. But for me, I think that's more of a PR issue. The more sensitive one is really the pension reform because you're talking about civil-military relations. You're talking about the Defense Ministry and the Department of Finance coordinating a very difficult response. We saw in France, there was almost a revolution over pension reform.
Right,
Of an
exactly.
a year or two adjustments. Now you're talking about a country with dozens of coups in its history, a lot of rumblings and rumors of coup earlier this year when there was a last-minute change, unexpected change in the top brass. And we know in the military, just a little change, the whole structure,
System,
the hierarchy
right.
and promotion systems is affected. So that's a very, very sensitive issue, especially after 6 years of Duterte giving everything to the armed forces of the Philippines to win them over and to smooth over that civil-military relations. But the other one, of course, which for me is the biggest achievement, is the amelioration of the debt of the farmers. More than 600,000 farmers are going to benefit out of that. We're talking about, 58 billion pesos, which is more than $1 billion. That's huge But as huge as it is, it's not going to be enough because you need, road to farm networks,
right.
you
We were
need
just talking about
financial infrastructure, and then the land bank and all are going to be tagged to the whole Maharlika Fund. So there's going to be a lot of squaring the circle
The Amelioration
happening there,
Act is important, but we were just saying it's a low-hanging
first
fruit
step, yeah.
because it's bad loans anyway. You can't possibly collect it, so might as well
Good luck
write
with
it
that,
off,
exactly,
right?
yeah.
What about in terms of foreign policy? Do you expect him
Right.
to touch on the South China Sea, the West Philippine Sea? Do you expect him to touch on China?
I've been saying this for the past 6 months. The EDCA so far is kind of a canvas upon which everyone is projecting their imagination. President Duterte's imagination is American nukes are going to come in and we're going to be a graveyard. Some other people are saying, what are you talking about? Some of these sites we're talking about in Cagayan, may makikita ka lang dyan ng isang fisherman folk at saka some empty coast there, right? So there, EDCA, there could be a kind of a maximal version of EDCA, which is closer to what Duterte and the China-friendly elements are warning. Or actually, EDCA can end up very minimalist, almost a Zen version, whereby you'll have, a few hundred American troops here and there, some hundred millions of dollars here and there, but actually Americans will not be allowed to preposition, forget about nuclear weapons, but Patriot missile systems. So those details have not been finalized as far as I know, unless you guys know something I don't know, because as far as I know, President Marcos knows EDCA is flexible, so he's still dribbling it. He's still looking at the parameters. So the devil is in details. And guess what? Marcos Jr. is not a man of details last time I checked. He wants big symbols. He likes new logos. He likes performative, technocratic announcements.
He likes optics.
But those, exactly. But the details of EDCA will matter. So I want to see, I'm not expecting much, but I want to see how in this speech he's going to play around this, because on one hand, you want the military to be happy, especially as you push for pension reform. And the military wants the EDCA, perhaps a maximal EDCA, right? Well, at the same time, you have allies like Duterte, allies like former President Arroyo, who are having misgivings, huge misgivings, public misgivings, me going to China without coordinating with DFA misgivings, right? Talk about former President Duterte. So it's going to be, again, the cliche, a tough balancing act. But knowing Marcos Jr., he's just going to say the minimum he can say to keep things on an even keel.
Yeah.
But I think the real details will come in his second year. And for me, I don't know if Ronald and Rest agree.
So you were mentioning, EDCA is a blank canvas. Everybody's trying to project what they think about it.
Sure.
I'll ask you this thing. What do you think EDCA is or will be for the Americans?
Especially the bases in the north.
Yeah. EDCA is inherently a flexible agreement, right? Meaning the type of meaning the size of American troops, the type of weapon systems, and even the size of the military facilities they're going to build. So it can be negotiated. It's nothing is set in stone.
Negotiated with the Philippines, but what do the Americans want to do?
No, the Americans would want to get the maximum out of this, meaning they can put the best possible weapons, the most number of troops there, so that they can prepare for a war with China, not only over South China Sea, but over Taiwan. But are we just going to allow that? Of course not. We should think about our own national interest. My sense is the Chinese have already accepted that EDCA is pushing through, but what they want is to pressure this administration so that not a compromise, but a minimized EDCA comes out. So I think we're already past, we have crossed the Rubicon in terms of EDCA and expanded American access, but size matters. Types of weapon systems matters. And this decision cannot be kicked down the road forever. I think in his second year, or potentially in near future, he has to decide on that.
Do you see this administration or this president trying to push back on the U.S. on that?
I think this administration is having a lot of internal conversation. I think if you talk to AFP people are more traditionally minded. They're excited about a more maximal EDCA, right? But I think there are also a lot of people, allies of the administration, who are having misgivings, and they're saying, let's look at the political dynamics, let's look at what the Americans can offer. And we don't even know who's the next American president after next year's elections, right? It could be another Trump, for heaven's sake. And then, I mean, I'm being politically neutral, but I'm just saying,
Neutral?
a lot is up in the air, right?
Ronald has
and as far
questions.
as I'm concerned, China, I know Ronald wants to come in, China also has to offer something. They haven't offered anything yet. So maybe if China offers something concrete in terms
Another
of
bridge.
big investments, I mean, real railway project, then maybe Bongbong will recalibrate. So for me, a lot of big optics changes happen over the first year of Marcos. but the real deal is going to be in his second year and onwards. That's why this Sona will give us an idea of how Marcos is going to psychologically signal where he's going to move on the second year, and whether he's going to make some big decisions and big moves in the coming months.
So do you think, Richard, that we can still be a friend to all and enemy to none?
As I said, that's a great logo for Department of Tourism,
I've heard
but
that
not as
slogan
a
before.
national security doctrine. Yeah.
The president is
Oh, the president is there.
has arrived.
Yeah.
Right, so we're just looking at live pictures of President Bongbong Marcos arriving at the Batasan Pambansa in the presidential chopper. I'm not sure exactly where the helipad is there, but it is just
Yeah, it's in the
quarter
Batasan.
to, we're running just a quarter to 4, so he's a little bit early.
Oh.
As
Yeah.
our reporter Mase
Yeah.
Halili mentioned earlier, he will be received by the Chief Presidential Protocol Officer.
Our mobile journalist said that the president's speech is supposed to last around 45 minutes. But from our
Busan.
other reporter,
Right.
Maricel Halili, she's saying that it might take an hour and 25.
Oh, wow.
That's what Sandro.
twice. Yeah,
That's what Sandro Marcos said.
Because there's going to be standing ovation.
Okay.
Clapping.
So the interruptions might make it longer.
On the bright side, it's good that the weather is holding up. We are expecting Super Typhoon Egay to, well, not make landfall, but to hit today. That's why classes and government work have been
Right.
canceled. But again, so far so good. We're looking at President Marcos about to walk into the halls of Batasang
Is that Demi
Pambansa.
Sagala?
It looks like the chief of staff.
That's right.
I think. Manny.
Browner.
Oh, is it
The new AFP
Yes,
chief
really
of
part
staff.
of the
General Bronner,
receiving
yeah.
line for the chief of staff, Manny, to be at the
Yeah, but
Batasan Pambansa for the Sona?
Maricel said earlier
He was
could
supposed to be
Demi
the protocol
Sagala.
officer. But again, that's Lieutenant General Romeo Browner.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, there's the Speaker of the House, his cousin, first cousin.
And the Senate
Speaker
President.
Martin Romualdez, together with the Senate President Miguel Zubiri.
Oh, I'm Marcos.
Oh, okay. So she had a change of costume.
Yeah. Cordilleran.
Yes.
So
Super
part of,
ate, huh?
part
Super
of the
ate.
receiving line was that Senator Joel Villanueva that we saw a while ago, next to the president's sister. Okay. So I guess they're not going. Usually they don't go straight to the plenary hall, to the session hall.
There's a holding room.
There's a
Yeah,
holding
holding
room
room,
where they-
exactly.
Yeah.
The Congress, the Vice President in the session where the joint session is held.
Sergeants at arms, yeah.
Then the President proceeds to the Presidential Legislative Liaison Office.
That's the First Lady there, First Lady Lisa Araneta Marcos, in a yellow gown, with the President's son, I believe.
Interesting choice of colors, huh?
Yellow.
For the First Lady.
You noticed that, Regina.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
It was banned in the
we
Pacific
know
State.
we know how fashion is a big part of the Sona coverage, right? And I find that interesting.
Alam
sure-
ko, nasusuotin ni Richard.
I'm sure that's going to be part of the conversation. Huh? Yeah, I missed that
Should
color.
we read into, Richard, should we read into the color of the gown?
No. I think it
There's
has nothing to
former
do with
President Gloria
politics.
Macapagal-Arroyo.
What
He's
is,
seated
what
right
is she
there.
wearing?
Who is she wearing? Is what I'm interested in. This is, by the way, one of the most well-attended saunas,
Yeah, I
I
wanted to
believe.
just ask about it. Yeah.
Right? I don't have the exact
Yeah, it
figures
looks
on
like
hand, but
packed
they had to
room.
add chairs.
Really?
There's about 2,000 invitees.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Right. They added chairs actually
Yeah.
in the days leading up to this the State of the Nation address, just to accommodate all the invitees who had RSVP'd yes.
Also, with, of course, relaxation perhaps of pandemic. You know, more or less pandemic over.
Ah, yeah, yeah.
I
So
think
we're
yes.
seeing in the
Revenge
video members of the cabinet.
Revenge sauna.
Revenge sauna, exactly.
We are also expecting
Those are the diplomatic
Chinese
corps.
ambassador.
the
Members of the
Chinese ambassador
diplomatic-
amongst
Yeah.
with the rest of the diplomatic corps.
Of course, the Papal Nuncio is the dean of the diplomatic corps.
Is that so, Manny?
Yeah, Papal Nuncio.
By default,
By
always.
Ex-official or parang gumanda yung Congress lalo, no?
They did refurbish
Yeah,
it.
it looks refurbished, right?
It was refurbished.
Maybe Naiya could look like that, no? After rehabilitation.
New Zealand
I don't mind.
It's
There
being
used to be
privatized.
huge wooden panels at the podium, at the backdrop,
Right,
where the
right.
flag was.
It's nice. It looks clean and nice.
Yeah.
Right. I think the lighting is
Clean
a bit
and
different,
nice
no?
and bright, that's
yeah, I think
right.
the lighting has changed.
Oh, but they have the new director.
Yeah, yun nga, like, it's not Paul Soriano,
Yes.
right?
Usually, ang State of the Nation, parang fashion show.
Yeah.
I think the RTVM director, no?
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
usual,
our TVM.
handles
Yeah.
the president's
Yeah,
coverage.
took over the directorial duties.
Radio,
Television, Malacanang. Yeah.
Ah, right.
But it was earlier announced that it would be the advisor and president on creative communications, Paul Soriano, who would be directing. I remember that on July 4, the House Secretary said so. And then after a few days, nagiba na.
Di ba na?
Oo, nagiba na.
Is Paul Soriano there?
So there's no explanation whatsoever why
Si
there's
Sara
a
ba yan?
change in
That's Sarah, no?
the person who will be directing.
Mindanaoan
this.
yung ano niya.
Sara always makes that statement.
Yeah, yeah, it's
like
a Mindanao,
Yeah, in her greetings.
Every
and-
year, yeah. Yeah, they don't seem to care about any potential criticism of cultural appropriation because they feel they genuinely represent those communities. I mean,
Well, she's from Mindanao.
yeah, exactly. And in the same way that even if IME is not Cordillera, as an Ilocana, she feels there's affinity with
The North.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
the North.
so I think that's where the sense of genuine authenticity comes from. Yeah.
All right, still congressional leaders
Golden
paying
yellow,
courtesy
right.
call on President Bongbong Marcos just before he delivers his second State of the Nation address to a full house at the Batasan Pambansa in Quezon City. The welcoming committee was appointed by the Senate and House representatives who accompany the president into the session hall. And then the House Speaker will announce the arrival of the president. This is now just the order of ceremonies. Then the president will have to, of course, sit between the House Speaker and Senate President. With the joint session of Congress called to order, after which the attendees will stand up and sing the national anthem, and after which we'll have the invocation. And finally, the president descends to this restroom to deliver the Sona.
That's
And
at
again-
4 o'clock.
That should be at 4
Yeah.
o'clock on the dot, and he seems to be, by all indications, on time. And will stick to his. Last year, he stuck to his prepared speech.
Yes.
Right. So there was no deviations from his speech.
That's what I
ended-
like Bongbong Marcos because he has a prepared speech.
As opposed
The
to,
former president does not follow a prepared speech.
which made it hard for us to
We
cover.
liked it the first time. First time Digong did it. But I think like by the second year onwards, like I remember my notes were literally all over the place.
You
like,
liked it the first time because
it's
you said a lot of things
Yeah.
off the cuff.
Yeah, I liked it the first time. I mean, even if I didn't agree
Because
with some of the
it
things he
felt
said,
so
yeah.
authentic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when you do it 6 times over every year, it's not authentic anymore. Not to mention every night, right?
The
So-
late night press conference.
So I think that's the irony, right? If you look at Marcos Jr., he's a very traditional post-Marcos president, right? And in a way, suddenly, many people are welcoming that traditionalism in his approach to.
How can you
The
go wrong after the
statesmanship.
bar is set that low?
Well, or different, let's just say, yeah, depending on how you read it, right? Yeah.
And many ambassadors are praising Marcos.
Yeah. I'm not sure about the Chinese ambassador, but but
So Richard, you would expect that Western nations or representatives of, or ambassadors from Western nations would have a harder time accepting this president.
President Marcos?
Yeah, as the son of Marcos. But
We-
I think
we
that
thought so,
he
but
has
they've
at least
actually-
succeeded in changing.
Yeah, that's where the Digong precedents matter, right?
Okay.
I think President Duterte so much alienated our European partners.
And the trips, I guess.
Yes,
The
yes.
trips too.
No, and he was impressive during the World Economic Forum. I mean, the way he handled himself, just his rapport, he was on top of his, portfolio. He knew what he was talking about. I mean, we can make arguments about how much he really knows his stuff, but he did exactly everything expected from a head of state.
From a statesman.
Yeah. I mean, you should have seen his World Economic Forum, right? I mean, it's like 1 hour long conversation, really eloquent. He knew what he was talking about. So the West is saying, hey, this is the Philippines we loved all these decades.
We can talk to this guy.
We can talk to this guy. We can get something out of this relationship.
We're not going to get cussed out by this guy.
Yeah, and the fact that Duterte is not now in the room may be interpreted in a certain way. I'm sure President Duterte has his own reasons. I mean, the trip to China, I'm sure, was not,
And of course, they were expecting that the Marcos brand will be the old brand.
Right.
And now it's a new brand.
It's a new brand. So there was a rebranding that succeeded, that in some ways succeeded.
Well, I mean, if you talk to our partners, they would say, we're impressed with the first year, but we want to see follow-through. And we know there are a lot of unresolved issues, right? As I said, just the EDCA issue is not a final issue yet. I'm sure they're watching the human rights front. They're watching the case of Senator De Lima. The ICC issue is now even bigger than ever because no less than Putin of Russia is now being affected and his foreign travelers are being affected. So I think our foreign partners are saying, mixed bag, but so far on the positive side of things. But is it going to be mixed bag on the other side coming year or so? So I think that's going to be an issue because remember, the Europeans are still warning about the GSP Plus and some of the incentives they're giving us. Those warnings have not
Are
gone
we
away.
not just hearing that from a certain segment of European parliaments?
No.
The issue of GSP Plus and
No,
human
Ronald
rights?
should know this
No,
better than
the
me.
European Parliament will be strongly united on the GSP Plus.
And the U.S.
Meaning they're
Especially
sticking to
on the
their
issue
guns.
of Laila De Lima and on the ICC.
and the U.S., no?
Well,
It's still-
that's what I was referring to, Manny. In the U.S., we always get this news about some congressman trying to put a rider on the budget.
Yes.
That would be explicitly.
Especially on the military
But we always.
aid.
But it always turns out, Manny, that it's just a one-off
Yes.
Especially now.
sentiment by an.
Especially now, because of the relationship of the Americans with the president, with the Philippines, I think the GSP Plus negotiations with the Americans will be different from the GSP Plus negotiations with the Europeans.
And there's only about 5 Democratic senators who are opposed to
Right.
giving us.
So it's going to be different with the U.S.
Yes.
So every time this bit of news comes up about the U.S. Congress trying to tie human rights to support of the
But
Philippines,
if
that's
we were
not
to
gonna
have a
carry.
Republican-American president and chummy-chums with Marcos a la Trump, then you could see more Democrats coming out because the American president is Democrat. So that has created some awkwardness for some Democrats to
Right.
air out criticism because they understand where Biden is coming from, the China strategy,
Right.
right? But if a Republican were in that position, there's no incentive for Democrats to hold back. There's every incentive for them to grandstand or try to portray themselves as protectors of human rights. So I think that's the
Meaning
dynamic.
it
that-
could all change again
It
next
could
year.
change very. I mean, let's say a Trump is president next year.
Oh,
I expect
man.
if that president, for sure, is going to have a good relationship with Marcos. Republicans have no problem with
What if
Marcos.
it
Last time
were
we checked.
RFK Jr.?
Or even
has
even
no
more,
chance.
even more unorthodox,
Okay.
right?
Even more conventional Republican.
We're now
In that sense,
looking
yes,
at President Bongbong Marcos walking into the halls at the Batasan Pambansa. Again, we were just saying, right on time.
Yeah. Maybe in a few minutes we will hear him.
See.
5 minutes.
And it's good to see there are no kerfuffles in the Congress before the president coming in.
So, Manny, will you count the standing ovations?
I hope the number of claps.
I want to ask Ronald, having been out there during the time of his father, did you ever imagine another Marcos in your lifetime?
No. But my imagination is very limited, unlike the imagination of Richard.
How about another Marcos in the future?
Talking about how the hall looks better now. I mean, look at that.
That's what I'm
Look at
saying.
the walkways. It's been
I work in the
refurbished.
a lot of them, so it looks very refurbished. It's very shiny.
Well, that is a brand, Marcos.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Things looking,
Bagong Pilipinas, exactly.
things looking very
Shiny.
sleek and
Yeah,
shiny.
exactly.
That's brand, Marcos.
I know.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's rise and welcome
The shots are not bad.
of the Republic of the Philippines, His Excellency Ferdinand Romualdez Marcos Jr.
Mr. President. On the part of the Senate, the joint session is hereby called to order.
On the part of the House of Representatives, the joint session is called to order. Please remain standing for the singing of the Philippine National Anthem to be led by Ms. Lara Marie Moscardon Maige.
Bayang magiliw, perlas ng silanganan, alab ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisiil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong bughaw. May dilag ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagniningning. Ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng luwalhatit pagsinta, buhay ay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may manghahapi,
Please remain standing for the nation's prayer.
Kindly bow your heads in prayer. O Diyos na makapangyarihan, manlilikha, tagapagbigay buhay at tagapagligtas. Salamat po sa inyong paggabay sa buong sandaigdigan, lalo na sa pagkalinga sa sangkatauhan mula sa dumating na pandemya. Maraming salamat sa mga pagbibiyayang patuloy ninyong ibinibigay sa aming minamahal na bayang Pilipinas.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma barik lana hadal ijtima. Sa pagtitipong ito, kasihan niyo po kami ng inyong banal na diwa at liwanag upang ang gawin ito ay magbunga ng ginhawa at kasiyahan sa pang-araw-araw na gawin ito, araw-araw na buhay na sambayanan. Salamat po sa muling pagsigla ng aming ekonomiya sa pag-unlad ng agrikultura at turismo, pag-inap ng education at pagkalahatan pang-agat ng ibang sektor ng serbisyo, production at pangangalakal na nagbibigay sa amin ng pagkain at kabuhayan. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina adhaban nar. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Salamat po sa matibay na bigkis ng aming pamilya at lipunan. Nakalakip ng kaloob niyong matibay na pananampalataya sa inyo at ang aming pananalig sa pamahalaan ay sama-samang bumuo ng aming matibay na pundasyon bilang isang bayan. Ang pamilya, pamahalaan at pananalig namin sa inyo, Ama, ang siya rin naming sandigan, kanlungan at bukal ng lakas sa pagharap at pananagumpay sa maraming hamon ng buhay.
Salamat po sa pag-iral ng kapayapaan at kaayusan sa gitna at sa kabila ng iba't ibang pananaw, sa marubdob at masiglang diskurso ng aming demokrasya. Tulungan niyo po kami upang makamit ang mas malalim, matibay, malawak na kapayapaan sa ikabubuti ng lahat. Akayin niyo po kami sa pagpapaunlad panglalo ng ekonomiya upang makarating ang mas maraming biyaya sa bawat tahanang Pilipino. Kalakip nito, bigyan niyo rin po kami ng dunong at pagkakaisa sa pagharap at pangangasiwa ng hamon ng climate change.
Maghari po kayo ng ganap ang inyong banal na diwa sa puso at isip ng aming mga mamamayan at mga pinuno, mga mambabatas, na mamahala at mga hukom, 10 ng kanilang mga tauhan, upang ang buong katapatan, ang paglilingkod nila at kagandahang loob na manguna sila at maglingkod tungo sa mapayapa, makatarungan, maayos, maunlad, masagana at masayang pamumuhay ng buong sambayanan. Itinatalaga po namin ang gawain ito sa inyo pong mabunyi at dakilang pangalan.
Are you ready? You want water? You want water? Okay, all right.
Ladies and gentlemen, honorable members of Congress of the Philippines, His Excellency Ferdinand Marcos Jr., President of the Republic of the Philippines.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Allow me to greet Vice President Sara Zimmerman Duterte, the former presidents, our former presidents, President Joseph Ejercito Estrada and President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri, and the honorable members of the Senate, House Speaker Ferdinand Martin Romualdez, and the honorable members of the House of Representatives, Chief Justice Alexander Gismundo, and the honorable justices of the Supreme Court, His Excellency, Most Reverend Charles John Brown, and the esteemed members of the Diplomatic Corps, Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin and the members of the Cabinet, First Lady Luis Araneta Marcos, former First Lady Imelda Romualdez Marcos, other distinguished guests, mga minamahal kong kababayan, ladies and gentlemen, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. 1 year ago today, I stood here before you, setting forth the plans that we have to improve our economy, bring jobs to our people, improve the ease of doing business, recalibrate our educational system to adapt to the new economy, lower and rationalize energy costs, boost agricultural production, enhance healthcare, and continue social programs for the poor and the vulnerable. Let me now report to the people on the successes that we can now lay claim to, and also the challenges that we continue to face. Last year, we emphasized certain strong headwinds that were confronting us along with the rest of the world in our post-pandemic economic recovery. And the biggest problem that we encountered was inflation. Maraming kaganapan sa mundo ang nakapagpagulos sa maayos na takbo ng pandaigdigang merkado. Bukod sa digmaan sa Ukraine, naroon ang patuloy na epekto ng pandemya. Pinalala pa ito ng pagbabawas ng produksyon ng mga bansang pinagkukuhanan natin ng langis. Nang tumaas ang presyo nito, nagsunura na rin ang presyo ng iba't ibang bilihin, ang gasolina, ang kuryente at ang pagkain. Ramdam sa buong daigdig, pati na sa Pilipinas, ang naging pagtaas ng mga presyo ng bilihin noong mga nakalipas na buwan. Sinuri nating mabuti ang sitwasyon. Sa tulong ng ating mga ekonomista, nakapagbalangkas tayo ng mga polisiya na magsisilbing pundasyon ng ating ekonomiya sa mga susunod na taon. Ito ay nakasaad sa ating medium-term fiscal framework na sinuportahan ninyo sa Kongreso. Kasabay nito ang paglulunsad ng mga estratehiya na mapalakas sa kakayahan ng ating mga kababayan at mga sektor ng ating ekonomiya. Nakakita po tayo ng magagandang resulta. While the global prospects were bleak, our economy posted a 7.6% growth in 2022, our highest growth rate in 46 years. For the first quarter of this year, our growth has registered at 6.4%. It remains within our target of 6 to 7% for 2023. We are still considered to be amongst the fastest growing economies in the Asian region and in the world. It is a testament to our strong macroeconomic fundamentals. Our financial system, the nerve center of our economy, remains strong and stable. Banks, the transmission arms of our monetary policy, have strong capital and liquidity positions. Stimulated by the relaxation of pandemic restrictions, transactions once again have flourished alongside the booming e-commerce that was undeterred by the pandemic in 2022. The digital economy contributed 2 trillion pesos, the equivalent of 9.4% of our GDP. The economy is revived and rejuvenated, backstopped by a favorable enabling environment and the strong rule of law. This year, the World Bank projects a 6% overall growth rate, well within the range of our targets for the year. It is anchored on strong local demand, underpinned by consumer spending, and draws strength from the BPO industry and, of course, the steady flow of remittances and the continuing jobs recovery. Inflation rate is moving in the right direction. From 8.7% in January, our inflation has continued to ease up in all regions, settling now at 5.4% for June. What this means is that in spite of all the difficulties, we are transforming the economy. We are stabilizing the prices of all critical commodities. According to the Bangko Sentral, inflation is expected to ease further by the close of the year and projected at 2.9% by 2024. On matters of the economy, there are many things over which we have no control. But over those where we do have control, we are doing everything we can. Puspusan ang ating ginagawa upang pataasin ang produksyon ng ating ekonomiya. Pinapalago natin ang mga industriya. Dinadagdagan natin ang mga infrastruktura upang mas mapabilis ang daloy ng mga produkto at ng serbisyo. Higit sa lahat, pinapalakas natin ang kakayahan ng mga mamamayan upang mapaganda nila ang kanilang pamumuhay. Ito ang punot dulo ng ating Philippine Development Plan. Investments in public infrastructure and in the capacity of our people through food, education, health, jobs, and social protection remain our top priority. For this year, economic and social services were allocated almost 70% of the national budget. Higher revenue collections will be critical in our bid to bolster public investments. Under our fiscal framework, we envision our tax and revenue efforts to further increase to up to 16.9% and 17.3% by 2028. Revenue generation has improved this year. From January to May, the Bureau of Internal Revenue has posted record collections amounting to 1.05 trillion pesos, an increase of almost 10% over the last year. For its part, the Bureau of Customs has also increased its collection by 7.4% for the first 7 months of 2023, amounting to 476 billion pesos. Since July 2022, we have seen increased revenues from PAGCOR of 47.9% and from the PCSO of 20%. We therefore seek, once again, the continued support of Congress to enact into law the policies and reforms under our fiscal framework. Sa mga nakalipas na buwan, nakita natin ang pagbaba ng presyo ng bilihin sa iba't ibang mga sektor. Napatunayan natin na kayang maipababa ang presyo ng bigas, karne, isda, gulay at asukal. Malaking tulong ang Kadiwa Stores na ating muling binuhay at inilunsad. Ang layunin ng Kadiwa ay pag-ugnayin ang mga magsasaka at ang mga mamimili. Walang iba pang namamagitan. Wala nang dagdag, dagastos at patong. Maganda ang kita ng magsasaka, nakakatipid din ang mga mamimili. Sa mahigit 7,000 kadiwa na idinaos sa buong Pilipinas, 1.8 million na pamilya ang nakinabang sa mababang presyo ng bilihin. Sa kabuuan, halos 700 milyong piso ang naging benta ng mga ito na nakapagbigay ng hanap buhay sa mga membro ng mahigit 3,000 na kooperatiba at samahan. Maganda ang nakita nating resulta, kaya papalawigin pa natin ang Kadiwa sa buong bansa. Kamakailan lamang ay nagsanib puwersa na ang mga ahensya ng pamahalaan upang lalo pang patibayin ang Kadiwa. Katuwang natin dito ang buong sektor ng agrikultura at ang lokal na pamahalaan. Our aim is to boost our local agricultural production through consolidation, modernization, mechanization, and improvement of value chains, augmented by timely and calibrated importation as needed. Nakita nating tumaas ng 2.2% ang sektor ng agrikultura sa unang 3 buwan ng taong ito. In our quest for food security, our methods are now more guided by science and the balance of nature, so that production is both sustainable and responsible, benefiting both this and future generations. Our fisheries codes must be revised to incorporate and strengthen science-based analysis and determination of fishing areas. This approach will protect both the interests of our fisherfolk and our fisheries and aquatic resources. To this end, we will seek the support of Congress to amend the code to guarantee sustainable development of our fisheries sector in harmony with environmental balance. Ipinagbubuklod natin ang mga magsasaka sa pamamagitan ng farm and fisheries clustering at mga livestock multiplier farms. 300 cluster na ang ating natukoy na binubuo ng halos 900 kooperatiba at may lawak na mahigit na 200,000 hektarya ng bukirin. Upang mas mapabilis at mas mapadali ang pagbuo ng kooperatiba, kakailanganin natin ang suporta ng Kongreso na maamyendahan ang Cooperative Code. Sa pamamagitan nito, unti-unting lalakas ang kanilang produksyon at puwersa sa merkado. Totoo ang kasabihan, mas malapas basta't sama-sama. Pinapalawak natin ang kanilang kaalaman sa makabagong mga teknolohiya at pamamaraan. Isa na rito ang paggamit ng biofertilizer na gawa sa Pilipinas at subok din at maaasahan. Sa balanced fertilizer strategy, gaganda ang ani ng mga magsasaka. Hindi na nila kailangan pang umasa sa mas mahal at imported na fertilizer. Bilang tulong sa mga magsasaka, namigay ang pamahalaan ng mahigit 28,000 mga makabagong makinarya at mga kagamitan sa iba't ibang dako ng Pilipinas. Sa ilalim ng iba't ibang mga programa ng kagawaran ng agrikultura, namigay ang pamahalaan ng mahigit na 50 milyong binhi ng palay, mahigit 1 milyong binhi ng mais at sari-saring mga binhi ng gulay. Nagpamigay tayo ng mahigit 100,000 binhi ng niyog at nagpatanim sa halos 10,000 hektarya ng lupa sa buong bansa. Lahat ng mga binhing ito ay makabago, hybrid at mataas ang kalidad. Sa naging pagtaas ng presyo ng gasolina at pataba, nagdala ng kaunting ginhawa ang mga fuel at fertilizer discount vouchers na ating pinamigay sa mga nahihirapang magsasaka. Ang mga natanggap nating donasyon na pataba mula sa China, pinimigay na natin kaagad sa kanila. Isa sa mga dahilan ng pagtaas ng presyo ay ang mga smuggler, mga hoarder at mga nagmamanipula ng presyo ng produktong agrikultural. Hinahabol at ihaabla natin sila. Sadyang hindi tama ang kanilang gawain at hindi rin ito tugma sa ating magandang layunin. Pandaraya ang kanilang ginagawa. Napapahamak hindi lamang ang mga magsasaka, kundi tayo rin mga mamimili. Kaya hindi natin papayagan ang ganitong kalakaran. Bilang na ang mga araw ng mga smuggler at hoarder na yan. Mahalaga ang infrastruktura para masuportahan ang may 14 na milyong hektarya ng sakahan. Inayos natin ang geo-agri-map ng mga farm-to-market roads ng buong bansa upang maidugtong mabuti ang mga sakahan sa mga pamilihan. Alinsunod dito, karagdagang 600 kilometro ng mga FMR ang ating nilatag sa iba't ibang panig ng bansa. Binigyan din natin ng patubig ang mahigit na 49,000 hektarya ng bukirin sa buong Pilipinas. Nagpagawa tayo ng halos 4,000 mga karagdagang fabrication lab, production at cold storage facility na magagamit ng lahat. Sa tulong ng Kongreso, nakapagpatayo tayo ng 24 na multi-species hatcheries upang maparami ang produksyon ng mga isda. Nakabantay tayo sa anumang banta ng mga sakit at peste na maaring dumapo sa mga pananim at alagang hayop. Malapit na tayong magkaroon ng mga epektibong gamot at bakuna labang sa mga ito. Samantala, pinapalakas natin ang biosecurity levels ng mga alagang hayop bilang panlaban sa sakit. Tayo rin ay naghahanda sa El Nino na nagbabadyang tumama sa mga darating na buwan. Nagsimula na tayong maghanda at ang mga buffer stock at ang mga kagamitang patubig ay hinahanda na. Kung kinakailangan, magsasagawa pa tayo ng cloud seeding upang makapagdala ng ulan. Kasabay ng lahat na ito, hinihimok din natin ang ating sambayanan na magtipid ng tubig para sa malawakang paghanda sa banta ng tagtuyot. Tulad ng ating ipinangako, ipinagpatuloy natin ang reformang pansakahan. Mahalagang haligi ito ng sektor ng agrikultura na ating inaayos. Nitong nakalipas na taon, mahigit 70,000 titulo ng lupa ang ginawad sa mga benepisyaryo ng reformang agraryo. Tamang-tama ang ating pagpapatigil ng mga bayarin ng mga benepisyaryo sa ilalim ng ating nilagdaan EO number 4. Isang taon mula nung aking unang Sona na isabatas na ang bagong Agrarian Emancipation Act. Dahil dito, ang 57 billion piso ng utang na pinapasan ng mahigit 600,000 benepisyaryo ay tuluyan ng nabura. Sa ngalan ng mga magsasakang ito at ang kanilang mga pamilya, maraming salamat muli sa ating mga mambabatas. Ang tubig ay kasing halaga rin ng pagkain. Kailangan natin tiyakin na may sapat at malinis na tubig para sa lahat at sa mga susunod na salinlahi. Kasama na rito ang tubig na ginagamit natin para sa sakahan. Considering its fundamental importance, water security deserves a special focus. Our efforts must not be scattershot, but rather cohesive, centralized, and systematic. So given that urgency, we have created the Water Resources Management Office to specifically handle the delicate job involving this most precious resource. Nakikipag-ugnayan tayo sa Kongreso upang maipasa ang batas para sa pagbuo ng isang Department of Water Resource Management. This year, we have allocated 14.6 billion pesos for water supply projects, which will benefit communities all over the country. Recently, the water supply of NCR and Rizal received a significant boost from the first phase of the Wawa Bulk Water Supply Project. The water supply will increase as the project enters the second phase. We have installed 6,000 rainwater collection systems across the country in preparation for the looming dry spell brought about by El Nino. One of the keys to continuing economic growth is infrastructure development. So we will build better and more. Our 8.3 trillion peso Build Better More program is currently in progress and being vigorously implemented. Ang buong bansa ay makikinabang sa 174 na proyekto sa ilalim ng programang ito. Hindi lamang natin pinapagpatuloy ang mga nasimulan ng mga proyekto, lalo pa natin pinapalawak. Kaya naman, ang 123 proyekto dito sa Build Better More program ay bago. The flagship projects cover investments in the areas of physical connectivity, water resources, agriculture, health, digital connectivity, and energy. Physical connectivity infrastructure, such as roads and bridges, seaports, airports, mass transport, account for 83% of this program. Our infrastructure spending will stay at 5 to 6% of our GDP. The underlying logic to our infrastructure development is economic efficiency. We are opening up all gateways to mobilize goods and services at less cost and in less time, and ultimately to drive the economy forward. Our road network plans must link not only our 3 major islands, but all prospective sites of economic development. The 1,200-kilometer Luzon Spine Expressway Networks program will effectively connect Ilocos to Bicol from 20 hours to just 9 hours of travel. Under the Mega Bridge program, 12 bridges totaling 90 kilometers will be constructed, connecting islands and areas separated by waters. The program notably includes the Bataan-Cavite Interlink Bridge and the Panay-Guimaras-Negros Island bridges, each spanning 32 kilometers, and also the Samal Island Davao City Connector Bridge. As of June this year, we have constructed, maintained, and upgraded more than 4,000 kilometers of roads and around 500 bridges across the country. Crucial airport and port development projects across the country have also been completed, including Cebu Pier's 88 Smart Port and the new passenger terminal buildings of Clark Airport and the Port of Calapan. We initiated several railway projects with a total length of more than 1,000 kilometers. Notably, the southern leg of the north-south commuter railway system is now in full swing. In a few years, travel from Pampanga to Laguna will be reduced from 4 hours to just 2. Intermodal connectivity will also be a primary consideration. Roads, bridges, and mass transport systems will be interconnected. This network will provide access and passage to vital and bustling economic markets, such as agriculture hubs, tourism sites, and key business districts. For strategic financing, some of the nation's high-priority projects can now look to the newly established Maharlika Investment Fund without the added debt burden. In pooling a small fraction of the considerable but underutilized government funds, the funds shall be used to make high-impact and profitable investments, such as the Build Better More program. The gains from the fund shall be reinvested into the country's economic well-being. To ensure sound financial management, a group of internationally recognized economic managers shall oversee the operations of the fund, guided by the principles of transparency and accountability. This guarantees that investment decisions will be based on financial considerations alone, absent any political influence. The funds for the social security and public health insurance of our people shall remain intact and separate. Owing to favorable market conditions, the price of crude oil has stabilized. Since last year, gasoline and diesel prices have gone down by 18% to 29% respectively. We have built 8 new additional power plants. This brings to 17 the total number of power generation facilities that have been switched on across the country since last year, substantially increasing our energy production by 1,174 megawatts. Alongside power generation, we are also as relentless in pursuing total electrification. Since my assumption into office, almost 500,000 homes have been given access to electricity. We will spare no effort to achieve full household electrification by the end of my term. 100% is within our reach. When it comes to energy, renewable energy is the way forward. We are aggressively promoting renewables so that it provides a 35% share in the power mix by 2030, and then on to 50% by 2040. To accelerate the realization of this green energy goal, we have opened renewable energy projects to foreign investments. Since last year, an additional 126 renewable energy contracts with a potential capacity of 31,000 megawatts have been awarded. To date, we have over 1,000 active projects spread all over the country. 299 of these are solar, 187 are wind, 436 are hydroelectric, 58 biomass, 36 geothermal, and 9 are ocean-powered. The Malampaya project has been a boon to our country, energizing 20% of Luzon. The renewal of the contract guarantees continued revenues and energy production for another 15 years. But aside from Malampaya, we will also push for more gas exploration in other parts of the country. The national government has also partnered with the BARM in regard to energy exploration and development, and also its utilization within its territorial jurisdiction. We therefore expect to see renewed investor interest in its promising sites. We finally have a unified national grid with the interconnection of the Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao grids. The one grid, one market will enable more efficient transfers and more competitive pricing of electricity throughout the country. However, 68 grid connections are much delayed, according to the ERC's count. We are conducting a performance review of our private concessionaire, the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines. We look to NGCP to complete all of its deliverables, starting with the vital Mindanao, Visayas, and Cebu Negros Panay interconnections. Habang pinapabuti natin ang lagay ng ekonomiya, pinapalakas din natin ang kakayahan ng Pilipino. Ito ay sa pamamagitan ng mahalagang armas ng edukasyon, magandang kalusugan at trabaho. Malaking bahagi ng pondo ng pamahalaan ay inilaan para sa mga ito. Sa ating pagtahak sa kaunlaran, walang mamamayang Pilipino ang maiiwanan. Para sa atin, ang bawat buhay ay mahalaga. Ano man ang edad, kasarian, pangkat, relihiyon o pisikal na kondisyon, sila ay kukupkupin at tutulungan. Naglalaan tayo ng sapat na pondo para sa mga paglingap ng mga lubos na nangangailangan. Layunin natin na sila ay makabangon, mabigyan ng sapat ng kakayahan at maging produktibo. Hindi lamang DSWD, kundi pati ang DOLE, ang DepEd, TESDA, CHED ay tumutulong sa ating mga kababayang nangangailangan. Ang AIX, TUPAD, TVET for Social Equity, Social Pension for Indigent Senior Citizens, at ang Cash for Work para sa mga PWDs ay ilan lamang sa mga mahahalagang programa ng pamahalaan para sa kanila. Nariyan din ang Integrated Livelihood Program Kabuhayan upang matulungan ang mga maliliit na negosyo. We are inclusive in our pursuit of social protection. The pension of the military and the uniformed personnel is as important, as urgent, and as humanitarian as that of all other civilian Filipino employees. Efforts are underway to make it fully functional and financially sustainable. We are once again working closely with Congress to ease the transition from the old system to the new one, so as to be able to guarantee that no effects are felt by those in the uniformed services. Nagsisimula ang lahat sa edukasyon. Ito ay para palakasin ang isip at kakayahan ng bawat Pilipino. Ang ating butihing Vice Presidente, na kalihim din ng kagawaran ng edukasyon, ay tumutulong upang tiyakin na ang bawat batang Pilipino ay mabibigyan ng nararapat at kalidad na edukasyon. We have renewed hope in giving the best to our next batches of students, especially the 28.4 million learners who return to school this year. Learning recovery will be at the forefront of our education agenda. The Matatag Agenda for Basic Education has been launched, focusing on relevance of curriculum, rapid and responsive delivery, and the welfare of both learners and teachers. We are augmenting as well our school workforce. 90% of the newly created teaching positions have now been filled, while additional administrative personnel have been hired to unburden the teachers of any extra load. Taking to heart the lessons of the pandemic, alternative delivery modes and blended learning methodologies have been adopted to ensure unhampered learning. Additional social safety nets, such as school-based feeding programs, are also being implemented. Learners will be made more resilient. Our public schools and facilities are being increased and fortified. The shortage of classrooms and facilities is being addressed. Aside from new construction, schools and facilities are being retrofitted to become ready for the future, ready for hybrid and high-tech learning, and also climate-ready and disaster-proof. Through the DepEd Partnership Assistance Portal, private sector partners continue their assistance in the rehabilitation and improvement of schools as part of their corporate social responsibility programs. We are recalibrating the K-10 curriculum to ensure that it is always relevant, responsive, and at par with international standards. Literacy and numeracy skills need to be strengthened. The virtue of good citizenship and sense of community are also now integrated into our curriculum. We continue to exhaust all efforts to keep our young people away from the sinister influences in the dark corners of society. We are making available to them their participation in formal schooling, alternative learning, non-diploma courses, or in technical vocational education and training, or TVET. TVET continues to prove itself to be an empowering educational intervention. There are many examples of how its graduates have gone on to secure competitive technical jobs. Since last year, more than 1 million Filipinos graduated from the TVET, one-third of whom were TESDA scholars. More and more of our higher education institutions have reached world-class status. This year, 52 Philippine HEIs have been included in the World Universities rankings compared to just 15 last year. We will not let a student's financial constraints be an hindrance to his or her education. We have activated social safety nets, such as skills development training and youth employment programs. Tertiary education in state universities and colleges will remain free for our qualified students. Last year, out of the 4.1 million enrolled college students, almost 50% were beneficiaries of the country's free higher education under the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education program. Deserving and talented students without the financial capacity to attend school will not be left behind in this education agenda. A culture of innovation, working hand in glove with a culture of entrepreneurship, must be fostered. This is Philippinovation. Science and technology, especially R&D, will be at its foundation. The DOST leads the development of our capabilities in science, technology, and innovation. Science and technology-related scholarships are made available for the talented and technically gifted students from high school all the way to graduate school. To address the challenge of staying at the cutting edge of technology, 44 renowned Filipino scientists in diverse areas of expertise have returned home under the Balik Scientist program. They will undertake research in various priority fields and will be supported by upgraded facilities and R&D funding. The Philippines has launched 2 additional satellites into space Together with the first satellite, they will track weather, predict storms, evaluate soil and water supplies, analyze shifts in population, and be used for traffic management, geohazard mapping, risk assessment, and even including security and defense. Science, technology, and innovation will drive the quality and competitiveness of our workforce, as well as our manufacturing, export, creative, and service industries, in existing markets and in new ones waiting to be explored. The bane of the mismatch between jobs and skills among our workforce is being rectified through strengthened government, industry, labor, academe partnerships, and the continuous reskilling and upskilling training programs that we have put before our workforce. For our seafarers to continue to excel, maritime education in the Philippines has been strengthened. This will progress and solidify our country's position as a global maritime hub through the steady supply of competent Filipino seafarers to foreign merchant marine vessels. The question about the European Union's recognition of the standards of training of Filipino seafarers has, after 17 years, finally been resolved. This development now effectively maintains the Filipino seafarers' distinct competitive advantage in the global shipping labor market. To address the current shortage of healthcare professionals in our country and to help us achieve our goal of universal healthcare, we are greatly expanding our medical and nursing education programs. We will push the envelope even further. We are helping nursing graduates hurdle their board exams so that they will obtain their licenses and join our pool of healthcare professionals. Ang kalusugan ang ikalawang armas para sa lakas ng pangangatawan ng bawat Pilipino. Isinusulong natin muli ang kalusugan ng Pilipino. We are now refocusing our health priorities, applying the lessons learned from the pandemic and addressing the weaknesses that it has exposed. Healthier communities and lifestyles are our advocacy. We have launched convergent programs to address hunger and nutrition-related issues amongst our people, especially the children, like stunting and wasting. Last week, we introduced the pilot food stamp program, which seeks to supply the nutrition needs of the 1 million most food-poor Filipinos. The FSP shall complement our nutrition continuity programs, such as the First 1,000 Days program, which ensures nourishment for the first 3 years of a child's life. The supplemental feeding program is for our children attending daycare centers. The K-6 program will feed kindergarten to grade 6 public school students who are suffering from wasting and severe malnutrition. We are catching up on the routine vaccinations of our children. As of this year, more than 80% of our eligible children have been vaccinated against measles, rubella, and polio. Nananawagan ako sa lahat ng mga magulang na kumplituhin ang mga bakuna ng kanilang mga anak at magtungo sa pinakamalapit na health center para sa mga libreng bakuna. The whole of society must exert efforts to suppress the alarming rise of tuberculosis and HIV/AIDS. To stem the tide, the strategic plan is to ensure early diagnosis and treatment and ample testing sites and medications. Our healthcare system is undergoing structural changes. Public health facilities are being increased, both in number and in capability. Last year, more than 3,400 projects were completed. To improve capacity for specialized medical treatment, specialty centers in various fields are being established and integrated into our government hospitals. And in the last year, additional 60 specialty centers have been opened to the public. Just last week, we inspected the site of what will soon be a 5-hectare multi-specialty center in Pampanga, which will specialize in pediatrics, cardiology, kidney, and cancer treatment. We are working for a more direct, efficient delivery of services through integrated primary care providers and networks in partnerships with the LGUs and our partners in the private sector. These shall, of course, be supported by what is now a better and more efficient PhilHealth. Ang presyo ng mga mahalaga at pangunahing gamot ay bumaba ng humigit kumulang ng 40%. May na bumaba na hanggang 70%. Aside from the maximum retail price regulation being implemented, strategic VAT exemptions also lowered the prices of 59 essential medications such as those for cancer, diabetes, hypertension, kidney disease, and mental illness. Palapit na tayo. Palapit na tayo sa hangarin na ang lahat ng Pilipino ay makakakuha ng serbisyong pangkalusugan. Sa ngayon, mahigit 93% na ang kasapi sa PhilHealth. Sa pinagandang konsulta package ng PhilHealth, 21 klase ng mga gamot at 13 laboratory service ang ibibigay ng libre. Ngayon, meron na tayong mahigit 2,000 konsulta centers sa buong bansa. Ang bilang na ito ay mas marami ng 35% mula nung nakalipas na taon. Upang mas lalo pang makatulong sa mga pasyente, ang dating 70 libreng dialysis session ay inakyat na natin sa 156. Mga kababayan, libre na po ngayon ang dialysis para sa karamihan ng Pilipino. Noong nakalipas na taon, mahigit 3.4 milyon na Pilipino ang nabigyan ng tulong sa ilalim ng Medical Assistance for Indigent Patients program ng DOH. Tinutugunan natin ngayon ang ating kakulangan sa mga doktor at mga nurse sa pamamagitan ng mga reforma sa edukasyon, patuloy na pagsasanay at paniniguro sa kanilang kapakanan. Naglagay po tayo ng doktor sa halos 200 munisipyo sa bansa. Lalagyan natin din ng doktor ang natitirang 19 na bayan na wala pang doktor. Upang masuklian naman natin ang naging sakripisyo ng ating mga health workers sa pribado at pampubliko ng mga ospital nung nakaraang pandemya, ipapamahagi na sa kanila ang kanilang COVID Health Emergency Allowance at iba pang mga nabinbing benepisyo. Kasabay ng pangangalaga natin sa edukasyon at kalusugan ng ating mamamayan, tinitiyak din natin na may sapat at magandang hanap buhay sa loob at maging sa labas ng bansa. As of May this year, our employment rate rose to 95.7%, clear proof of the improvement from the severe unemployment that we experienced during the height of the pandemic. Employment then was at a low of 82.4%. But even with our current high level of employment, we must do more. We will generate additional jobs for the remaining 4.3% of our workforce, as well as for the 11.7% underemployed Filipinos seeking better employment opportunities. Under the banner of our fast-growing economy, we are aggressive in our investment and business promotions and facilitations. For that, we have not limited ourselves to the local economy, but we have looked to the global economy for partnerships and agreements. Our independent foreign policy, a friend to all and enemy of none, has proven effective. We have formed strategic alliances with our traditional and newfound partners in the international community. We have embarked on foreign trips to promote the interest of the country for peace building and for mutually beneficial purposes. These economic missions have yielded an estimated total investment value of 3.9 trillion pesos or 71 billion US dollars, with a potential to generate 175,000 jobs. The implementation of recent economic reforms is underway. BOI-approved investment projects have reached 1.2 trillion pesos during our first year, while other strategic investments approved for processing through the newly established green lanes amount now to 230 billion pesos. Our existing bilateral and multilateral trade agreements, notably within the ASEAN framework, and with Japan and with Europe, and allow us to leverage our competitive advantages and reap economic benefits. We will continue to forge more of these international partnerships that will lead to a more balanced trade strategy and a healthier economic position. The Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, is now in force. It is a multilateral trade arrangement with the ASEAN and other countries such as Australia, China, Japan, Korea, and New Zealand. We can now have competitive access to a regional market that comprises 2 billion people. As we address our weaknesses and develop competitiveness in other potential areas, we must also play to our strengths. Our competitive advantage must be leveraged. As a service export powerhouse, we must continue to nurture the growth of the services sector, particularly the information technology business process management sector, and of course, the tourism industry. Our tourism has always been a reliable pillar of our economic growth through the years, providing livelihood to more than 5 million of our citizens. Because of the reopening of the economy and the phenomenon of revenge travel, this sector is headed for a great rebound. From January to June this year, we have received 3 million international visitors. This number is already 62% of our 4.8 million target for the entire year. Mga kababayan, ang lahat ng mga ginagawa natin ito ay magbibigay bunga sa libu-libong hanap buhay para sa ating mga kababayan. To create these investment opportunities, we must ensure that an enabling business environment is in place, that there is peace and order, and that the rule of law governs. We will solidify our country's reputation as an attractive and reliable investment destination. Building on institutional reforms of recent years, we have created green lanes for strategic investments and expedited the business processes in various sectors and investment modalities. A progressive and rationalized system of taxation is a component of the ease of doing business. The Ch.8 law has made our corporate tax and incentive schemes equitable and business-friendly. There are more structural tax reforms that must be introduced to allow us to reach our socio-economic targets. Digitalization is the call of today, not the call of the future, not the call of the future, but of the present. It is here, it is needed, and it is needed today. Government must fully embrace digitalization to provide better service to the people through its vital frontline services and its back-end functions. Digitalization will support the government's data-driven and science-based planning and decision-making. It is the greatest, most powerful tool, not just to improve the ease of doing business, but also against many forms of graft and corruption. Data shows that digitalization, in conjunction with government streamlining efforts, has significantly boosted efficiency. Notable examples are in the areas of government payments, company and business registrations, issuance of permits and licenses, loan applications, and revenue collection. All our digitalization efforts will be linked to our payment systems, whose digital transformation has been accelerating at a remarkable rate. Digital payments accounted for 42% of the total retail payments made in 2022, whether by businesses or individuals or by the government. Its high trajectory is now well positioned to achieve Bangko Central's target of 50% of total retail payments by this year. The eGov PH app has also been launched. As envisioned, all key government services are to be integrated into the single and centralized mobile app for the convenience of the general public. The national ID system will be at the core of this digitally transformed network of government services. It will fundamentally change the lives of each Filipino. At 87% total registration, we are now closer to establishing a complete, accurate, and reliable digital database of our own for the entire population. This has already been integrated into the eGov.ph app and can be now accessed by our citizens. Consistent with this transformative policy direction, all government offices must then ensure that their vital services are digitalized immediately. In response to this call, the Department of Migrant Workers launched last week the Department of Migrant Workers Mobile to make the journey of our overseas Filipino workers easier. Because of system upgrades, our internet speed has improved. As of June of this year, our fixed broadband speed ranks 47th amongst 180 countries. This ranking is 11 places higher than it was last year. Our mobile internet speed is now ranked at 83 out of 142 countries, which is 8 places higher than it was last year. There will be more improvements as our internet infrastructure undergoes further upgrades. Early this year, Starlink went live in the Philippines, now providing high-speed satellite broadband connectivity. Our national fiber backbone and broadband ng MASA projects will also deliver high connectivity and high-speed internet. We are prioritizing geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas. The DICT has been directed to consolidate all these digitalized government services into the eGov.ph app, to establish the National Government Portal and the Philippine Business Data Bank to improve the internet speed in our country. With our e-commerce roadmap firmly in place, we are poised to take this digitalization drive further and beyond, utilizing e-commerce to take full advantage of new technologies. The first bill that I signed into law was the SIM Registration Act, because we are mindful of the risks and vulnerabilities that can lead to negative consequences. Digital users and consumers shall be protected from identity theft, phishing, other online scams through essential systems and safeguards, such as cybersecurity, data privacy, consumer complaint mechanisms, and financial literacy campaigns. The trainings necessary to ease the transition of those whose jobs would be affected by the shift to digitalization are also now being included in the curricula and programs offered by TESDA, DICT, and other agencies of government. It is our wish that one day foreign employment will be driven by choice, not by necessity. It remains a noble calling that our OFWs have answered, requiring great sacrifice from them, their families, and their communities. We are engaging with our partners in the international community to ensure a safe working environment for our countrymen. And as we do so, we are also putting in place responsive mechanisms for the social welfare, repatriation, and reintegration of our returning OFWs into the Philippine economy. As the world economy reopens, we are witnessing a rise in overseas Filipino deployment. In 2022, the number has increased by 62%. OFWs continue to send in historically high remittances, solidifying their role in our transformative economic growth. In 2022, our OFWs contributed $32.5 billion, or roughly 1.8 trillion pesos, to our economy. Several countries have also signified interest to explore bilateral labor cooperation with the Philippines in the areas of healthcare, tourism, hospitality, engineering, construction, and information technology. Recently, we signed agreements with Singapore, Austria, and the province of Alberta in Canada. Our priority is to ensure that the principles of ethical recruitment, fair employment, and the safe and orderly migration of our people are embodied in our agreements with other countries. For example, the deployment issue in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has now been resolved. And as of today, 70,000 of our OFWs have already been deployed to Saudi Arabia for employment. Moreover, over the unpaid salaries and other related claims of some 14,000 OFWs who have been put out of work in Saudi Arabia during the pandemic are now being processed. The Crown Prince of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia himself personally committed to me that the unpaid claims of Filipino workers would now be paid. The continued employment of some 50,000 workers and the deployment of many more Filipino seafarers aboard EU vessels has also been assured. The lesson for us is that our education and skills training must always be attuned to the high, exacting, and constantly evolving global standards. Sa pagsusumikap ng mga mamamayan, walang hindi kakayanin. Kahit ang mga matatayog na pangarap ay maaabot, kasama ang inaasam na tahanan. Katuwang natin ang lokal na pamahalaan at pribadong sektor upang matulungan ang Pilipino sa pangangailangan ng pabahay. Patuloy ang serbisyo ng Pag-ibig Fund upang makatulong sa kanyang 15 milyong membro para makabili ng bahay. Sa nakaraang taon, mahigit 100,000 ang kumuha ng housing loan sa Pag-ibig na nagkakahalaga ng 117 billion na piso. Ito ang pinakamataas ng bilang sa buong kasaysayan ng Pag-ibig. Itong nakalipas na taon, mahigit 148,000 na kabahayan at mahigit 30,000 mga Certificate of Eligibility of Lot Award ang naipamahagi sa Luzon, sa Visayas at sa Mindanao sa ilalim ng sari-saring mga programang pabahay ng pamahalaan. Mahigit 35,000 residential free patent at agricultural patent titles naman ang naibigay sa mga benepisyaryo nito sa buong bansa. Hindi pa dito natatapos. Papalawigin pa natin ang ating programa sa abot-kayang pabahay, lalo na para sa mga mahihirap nating kababayan. Itong nakalipas na taon, inilunsad natin ang pambansang pabahay para sa Filipino Housing Program o 4PH. Nagkaroon na tayo ng groundbreaking sa 25 lugar sa iba't ibang bahagi ng bansa. Nagpirmahan na rin ng kasunduan upang simulan ang mga proyekto sa mahigit 100 lokasyon. Kung susumahin natin ito, mahigit 1 milyong kabahayan ang maialay natin sa ating mga kababayan sa buong bansa. The building blocks of progressive, livable, and sustainable communities will never be complete without appropriate and responsible action to mitigate and to adapt to the effects of climate change. We can never lose sight of our responsibility to the future. The economic agenda cannot and will not ever be incompatible with our climate change agenda. Climate change is now an important criterion in our integral national policies, in planning, decision-making, up to the implementation of programs. The potential advantages of such enlightened policies extend to jobs and livelihood, with the unlocking of the development of the green and blue economies. We have learned many painful lessons from past disasters, but we continue to be alert and prepared in our disaster response. It has in fact been commented that sometimes we are over-prepared for such natural disasters. Well, to continue that, we are reorganizing our response teams to make them more adaptable, agile, and effective in times of calamities and crises, with a clear unity of command. Our evacuation centers are being upgraded to withstand the greater forces of the new normal of extreme weather, as well as other natural and man-made disasters. Furthermore, new evacuation centers are also being built, of which 55 have already been completed. We remain committed to global decarbonization goals and the reduction of our carbon footprint. We preserve and protect the treasure that is our forests. Their value to the environment, to the ecology, and the economy is incalculable. We have adopted the concept of the circular economy, using nature as our model. The aim is to keep raw materials in a closed loop. In our world with scarce resources, the circular economy allows us to fully use these resources, minimize waste, and reduce the need for new resources, just as it is in nature. Just like our climate change action, this new system requires the participation of all sectors of society, up to each individual citizen, for it to succeed. Only a whole of government and whole of society approach will enable us to do all of these. It is necessary to apply all the resources that are at hand if we are to progress as quickly as we need to. Collaboration is the key between and among government offices, and between government and the private sector, between industries and the academe, between government and international partners, and most importantly, collaboration between and among our populace. Kakailanganin natin ang tulong at kakayahan ng buong pamahalaan at ng buong bansa. And so we shall do the same for the next 5 years. We seek not only to become more effective, but more, to become truly transformative. This approach will be operationalized through the interagency cooperations as well as through coordinated efforts between and among the 3 branches of government and the independent constitutional bodies. We have organized private sector advisory councils and national local mechanisms to establish the needed linkages. Once again, on this same principle, I urge the government to enact a new government procurement law and a new government auditing code. This to make government procurement and auditing more attuned to these changing times. We will give effect to the mandate of the Constitution and the Local Government Code as clarified by the Supreme Court very soon. Almost all the required devolution transition plans of the LGUs are done. To fully prepare them for optimal devolution, the necessary technical and financial assistance is being extended to our local governments. In everything that we do, the enduring Filipino quality of bayanihan will still be our guide. 5 taon mula nung matinding kaguluhan, babangon na ang Marawi City. Nanunumbalik na ang sigla sa pamayanan, maraming proyekto ang nakumpleto at mga infrastrukturang naitatayo. Kasalukuyan na tayo nagpoproseso ng tulong pinansyal para sa mga biktima ng Marawi Siege upang sila ay makapagsimula muli. Naway mamayani ang pag-asa. Naway magpatuloy ang pagkakaisa, pagmamatyag at paghahangad ng kapayapaan at kaunlaran. We are proud of the progress that the BARM has taken. It will be self-governing. It will be self-governing, it will be progressive, and it will be effective. But this was only made possible because of the cooperation of all key groups. We talked to the local governments, the royal families, the MNLF, the MILF, were all consulted and represented in this transition phase. The international community has also supported us in this smooth transition. Former adversaries are now partners in peace. Its functions have been defined, and its basic laws are now being written. Through the BARM, we have strengthened the nation's prospects for finally achieving sustainable progress anchored on a true and lasting peace in southern Philippines. We will continue to support the progress of the BARM, apace with our singular vision for all Filipinos. A strong and stable rule of law will strengthen the foundation of our transformation. Our police and armed forces are being strengthened and modernized to be more effective in maintaining peace and order and in defending our sovereignty. We fully support the judiciary's efforts to improve the justice system and to protect constitutional rights. The campaign against illegal drugs continues, but it has taken on a new face. It is now geared towards community-based treatment, rehabilitation, education, and reintegration to curb drug dependence amongst our affected citizenry. Last year, we launched the Buhay Ingatan Droga Ayawan or BIDA program and established an additional 102 Balay Silangan Reformation Centers nationwide. We will relentlessly continue our fight against drug syndicates, shutting down their illegal activities, we will shut down their activities and dismantle their network of operations. Unscrupulous law enforcers and others involved in the highly nefarious drug trade have been exposed. I will be accepting their resignations. In their stead, we will install individuals with unquestionable integrity who will be effective and trustworthy in handling the task of eliminating this dreaded and corrosive social curse. We cannot tolerate corruption or incompetence in government. For almost half a century, some of our fellow Filipinos have taken to arms to make their views known and felt. We are now at a point in our history when their armed struggle has evolved. We have now progressed together towards peace and development. We have incorporated capacity building and social protection into our reintegration programs to guarantee full decommissioning of former combatants. Through community development and livelihood programs, the barangay development and enhanced comprehensive local integration programs have been effective in addressing the root cause of conflict in the countryside. To complete this reintegration process, I will issue a proclamation granting amnesty to rebel returnees, and I ask Congress to support me in this endeavor. Our journey to progress requires not only unity and social cohesion amongst our people. It is also imperative that our nation remains intact and inviolable, our sovereignty preserved. We will protect our sovereign rights and preserve our territorial integrity in defense of a rules-based international order. With our national interest paramount, we will always pursue constant dialogue and diplomatic approaches to the resolution of any issue that may arise. So the initial results of our efforts inspire confidence. Let us continue to be relentless in our aspiration of peace and progress. This has not been the work of a single person, neither a single branch of government, nor even the whole government acting alone. This is the collective synergy achieved by all Filipinos working together. It took a whole-of-nation effort to achieve this immediate recovery from our pandemic slump. Unity was what made us rise once more. Nagsisimula pa lamang tayo. Ang pagbangon ng ating bayan ay magpapatuloy pa. Hinihiling ko ang inyong tiwala at pakikiisa. Sa ganitong paraan, makakamtan natin ang ating tanging hangarin, ang maginhawa, matatag at panatag na buhay para sa lahat ng Pilipino. Makikipagtulungan tayo ng mabuti sa Kongreso para sa mga mahahalagang batas na kinakailangan para sa ating tuloy-tuloy na pag-ahon. And once again, I appeal to Congress for its support for the following priority legislations. The essential tax measures under our medium-term fiscal framework, such as excise tax on single-use plastics, VAT on digital services, rationalization of mining fiscal regime, motor vehicle users charge, road users tax, the military and uniform personnel pension, amendment of the Fisheries Code, amendment of the Anti-Agricultural Smuggling Act, amendment of the Cooperative Code, new government procurement law, new government auditing code, anti-financial account scamming, Tatak Pinoy law, the Blue Economy law, ease of paying taxes, LGU income classification, and the Philippine Immigration Act. In the past year, It has been a source of great hope and optimism to me to now know that there is an enormous pool of highly competent and dedicated workers serving in our government. It is up to us to provide good leadership and guidance. They love the Philippines and have responded to our call. I have stated before that my confidence in our future was grounded in our world-class quality workforce, be they the farmers in the field, corporate giants, government officials, school teachers, health workers, or employees. That confidence has been further buoyed by the demonstration of love for the Philippines. Every Filipino has unanimously risen to the challenge that we have made to them to be part of our nation's future. Handa silang maghandog ng tulong dahil mahal nila ang kanilang kapwa Pilipino at mahal na mahal nila ang Pilipinas. And thus, with this in my heart, I know that the state of the nation is sound and is improving. Dumating na po ang bagong Pilipinas. Maraming salamat po sa inyo.
Window lang.
And we just heard President Bongbong Marcos deliver his second State of the Nation address at the Batasan Pambansa in Quezon City to a packed house in Session Hall. That speech went on for just a little over an hour, as they had said to us before. So much to unpack, although he left the priority bills towards the end. And so when we look at the speech, there's so much to unpack here. Ronald, let's start with you. What did you think? What were your key takeaways?
Well, it is basically a report. Nothing
which is what he promised anyway.
Yeah, nothing controversial. So basically, what he did was I was expecting na ipapaliwanag nga yung bagong Pilipinas as a political project. Mukhang
But
hindi
he left it
napaliwanag
right at the very end.
Tapos yung isa sa strong point niya, yung foreign policy, hindi rin masyado na pag-usapan. No? Yun ang isa sa strong point niya. No? Mukhang may iniiwasan siya ron na dynamics.
Yeah.
Yung ICC, hindi rin na pag-usapan na part ng foreign policy. Kaya non-controversial. It reflects more his style of leadership. No, yung style of leadership niya. Usually naman, in 1 year, yun yung lumalabas no, kung wala kang malinaw na political project. So yung style of leadership niya ay non-controversial, no, stable, pero hindi disruptive. Kung ikukumpara mo din sa kanyang predecessor, like President Duterte, na yung essence ng kanyang leadership is disruption. No? Coupled with populism. No, yun yung kanyang kwan.
But President Marcos said one thing on South China Sea and the ICC, which is to defend our sovereignty.
Well, yung sinabi niya kasi is a friend to all, enemy to none.
Independent foreign policy, which President Duterte himself also said before.
Yes.
Right?
No?
So again, nothing new here.
Pero malinaw yung kay Duterte na pro-China siya. Ang tawag niya sa UNCLOS is a scrap of paper na dapat itapon sa basurahan.
I guess it's worth noting that the term he used this time, he used the term sovereign rights, which I think is the most appropriate term to use when you're referring to
UNCLOS,
the South China Sea, because really there's no territory there, as the Hague Tribunal arbitral ruling itself said so. No, it's really sovereign rights that we have.
Yes, because
compared to last,
you cannot resolve sovereignty in 100 years, but sovereign rights you can defend it.
Yes.
Well, sovereign rights is what we have.
Yes.
I mean, to be clear,
under UNCLOS.
Under UNCLOS.
Yes.
One difference do sa previous Sona niya, mas nagbanggit siya about anti-corruption. Yung previous Sona, walang mention about corruption. Dito, binanggit niya yung mga
hoarders,
smugglers, yung mga
what did he say?
hoarders. Iniwasan niyang banggitin ang cartel.
Oo.
Ang pinakamabigat na linya.
You're waiting for the cartel
Kala ko
mention.
pupunta ron
Pero mabigat yung linya niya na kung may quotable quote from this speech, it's bilang na ang araw ng mga smuggler. Yun.
Yan, dapat
Tinagalog talaga niya.
Dapat may makita tayo na makakasuhan at makukulong. Kung hindi,
Again, it's just empty words.
yeah, usually kasi yung karamihan sa sinabi niya, this is what governments usually do. Kalsada,
Correct,
bridges,
correct. Schools,
digitalization,
health,
etc. Health, etc.
measures.
Should it be otherwise, Ronald? Yung
Well,
State of the Nation? Isn't it really you're talking to members of Congress, what you plan to do? Shouldn't it
That's
be
why
about
that's
that?
why hinihintay
Not
ko
really
yung
foreign
political
policy.
project Yung saan mo dadali ng bansa, no? Yun yung hinihintay natin kahit nung unang SONA. No, yun usually yung nagde-define. Yun yung linchpin. No, na medyo akala ko yun yung lalamanin nung bagong Pilipinas. Pero mukhang last word lang yung bagong Pilipinas. No? Yun yung, siguro, sana may paliwanag in the succeeding days or weeks yung laman ng bagong Pilipinas. Dahil mukhang angkor yan It's a linchpin.
Aren't we meant to just read between the lines here? Because if you look at his speech, the majority of it had to do with economic measures, promises, right? Trying to build better, more as his tagline for infrastructure goes, trying to improve the lives of Filipinos. Hindi ba yun na ngayon, yung bagong Pilipinas?
Yes, but you're talking to the people. Maunawaan ko yung first SONA niya. He was trying to distinguish himself from the previous president. He was talking to the diplomats, to the foreign community, to businessmen, to the middle class. Ngayon, nung nagsimula siya, akala ko dun yung direction. Tagalog, no? Eventually, ay ganun din yung sumunod. Parang you're talking to the convinced. You're talking to the...
Preaching to the choir.
Yes. So, medyo kulang dun sa massification. Ano ba yung mensahe mo sa masa? Ano ba yung mensahe mo sa karamihan sa ating populasyon? Yun yung kulang pa in terms of definition. No? Siguro yun ang hahanapin ng ibang mga kolumnista na magsusulat bukas.
Pero yung napansin ko lang, yung sa mga infrastructure projects, connectivity, all of these were done in the past.
Started in the past administration, started by the past administrations.
I think he is talking a lot. There's a lot of emphasis on digitalization. And I don't think there was as much emphasis in the past administration about this. It's really trying to transform how government does its business moving forward. So
I mean,
that's something that if he succeeds, that might define this administration.
Isa pang mahalaga ay yung walang peace talks.
Yes.
Merong peace talks.
Wala.
Sabi niya, amnesty.
Walang peace talks with the communist guerrillas. Walang peace talks sa communist guerrillas.
Ronald. Is this the first time? Because normally every new administration tries to open negotiations.
Yes. Mukhang dito is more co-optation or dudurugin sila. That was the message.
So this is new?
Yeah.
This is different.
Usually may lip service to peace talks.
Yes.
Dito wala.
Maybe he just forgot about it. Or we know that he had to trim down the speech kasi it was getting too long and he wanted to fit it in. Baka naman hindi priority.
Ganun din ang sinabi ni Gibo
He actually
walang
said
peace talks.
no peace talks.
Yeah.
But there will be, and he's asking for amnesty.
Amnesty.
For rebel returnees.
Kasi konti na lang yung NPA Medyo ba kailangan mong peace talks? Didurugin
So that's
medyo nilamanan na niya yung agriculture.
Yeah.
No? Na medyo kapos la SONA.
So did you like what you heard
in
terms of agricultural measures?
Yes, pero yan, it's hindi yan ganun kadali. Dahil nga sabi natin kanina, may structural ills Conversion, cartels, no? Structural supports.
Parang hindi ata nabanggit yung National Land Use Act, or was it mentioned? Many bills that we were expecting to be brought up or mentioned in today's SONA that were not there, right?
Maraming tatamaan. Doon pag pinus po uli niya.
But he did mention MUP reform.
Yes,
pension fund reform.
Pero inamin din niya na bahagi or a significant part ng growth rate natin ngayon is because of the post-pandemic revenge spending.
Right.
No? Employment because of the unemployment during the post-pandemic. So may recognition siya na yung nangyayari ngayon na na isang strong point ng kanyang gobyerno, yung GDP increases na record high.
The highest in
is to a great
14
extent
years.
dahil bagsak tayo yung pinaka
was just
malaki ang constriction during the pandemic.
That was just the tailwind in the
Yes,
pandemic, right?
Which is, kailangan masubukan in the succeeding years yung tunay na government policy para i-improve yung mga fundamentals like manufacturing and agriculture. Yun yung hindi pa masyadong na-discuss, yung fundamentals ng economy, rather than yung dulot ng post-pandemic wins.
And then very quickly, what did we like about, or what did we think about the Maharlika Investment Fund mention?
Abay, sabi niya, ito na yung mga fund ng projects. Hindi na raw uutang.
Is that realistic?
Ganun ba talaga yun?
Well, siguro it still remains to be seen dahil hindi pa ganun kalinaw anong klaseng creature itong Maharlika. Is it a sovereign fund? Is it an investment fund? Etc. Yun yung kailangang linawin pa.
Should it be one or the either, or can it be a hybrid of sorts?
Yes, halimbawa.
There's really no hard and fast rule on what.
Kung kukuha ka sa Land Bank tsaka sa DBP, talaga naman nagbibigay ng investment yan Diretso.
Right.
You don't need a Maharlika fund for that. No?
Don't you need one fund to manage everything so everything is more deliberate, yung investment mo, yung
yun yung trabaho ng
spending mo?
gobyerno. Usually, yung ganyang fund, sovereign yan no? Yung surplus mo. Or, political. Iniiwasan mo yung process ng gobyerno in terms of allocating resources.
Right.
So, it could be that. No?
Yeah.
Ang hindi pa malinaw, saan manggagaling? Investment ba yan? Katulad nung trip tomorrow sa Malaysia? Sinasabi kasi nila may makukuha sa Malaysia. Kaya sinasabi ko, it remains to be seen what it is.
Fair enough. Because there's, again, it's short on details, right? So, it's a good start, but we're going to have to wait and see. Just see some of these
It will all be clear, I
promises.
guess, when the IRR comes out.
Right.
So they don't want to maybe.
Halimbawa, isang weakness niyan ay inassign din nila si Secretary Jokno.
Yes.
Diyan sa Maharlika. Dapat ang ilalagay mo talaga diyan yung full-time na yun lang ang kanya. No?
Maybe they haven't found anyone.
Yun yung kwan.
Yeah.
Kaya medyo hindi ganun katama yung paglagay ng Finance Secretary as the anchor there. Dahil marami siyang ibang ginagawa.
Right. Okay, well, we're going to have to leave it there. So much still to unpack, but that's all the time we have. Unfortunately, I'd like to thank our guests today who kept me and my Cignal colleagues company this afternoon. This has been a One News special coverage of President Bongbong Marcos' second State of the Nation address. And on behalf of the men and women of One News, thank you so much for tuning in.